Are you gentlemen ready? Are we ready?
Joe, just turn on your microphone, I think it's on right.
Yeah, I do. I think, Joe, do you have yours on? We're on the air? Okay, thank you. Good evening, Groveland Board of Selectmen meeting of February 3rd, Tuesday. It's an off night for us. We'll open a little after 6 o'clock. And if we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, that would be very nice. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we remain standing just for a moment of silence for Dick Sharka? I'm sure most people in the community know Dick passed away a few days ago, and I think was buried this morning, if weather was permissible. So he served as a member of the Groveland Board of Selectmen. He served on the school committee. He was a baseball coach. He's on the cemetery committee. I don't think there's any job that Dick hasn't done for the community. He was son, brother, uncle, and we know his family will miss him. And if you could say a prayer right now for Dick, that would be very nice. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
Resident comments. I don't think the residents are coming out to comment tonight. It's a little chilly,
They can't call them in either.
you know. And we have warrants. If Joe and Bill would do the payroll warrant, that would be
All right, let me
very nice.
fire those up before we have our first visitor. The three warrants, a payroll warrant, the first one, payroll warrant number 15-31 for a total of $142,948.60. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Would you do the next one,
Abstain.
Joe?
Betty abstains. Second, Bill, Joan. Okay, next one is the deduct warrant 15-29A for a total of $24,618. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and it's unanimous?
Unanimous,
Okay, great. The last two are bill warrants, 15-31 and 15-31AA for a total of $2,217,779.89. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
That's unanimous. Thank you. Got that out of the way.
And we have a couple of minutes. Is there anything that you want to take this time to read through all the information?
Yeah, that's probably a
we
good
have?
idea. I did a
We
little
have
bit
the
of
next
reading.
appointment at 6:15 for the Josh Sindoni appointment to the Groveland Police Department.
So there's quite a bit of correspondence this evening, so
If we can take some time just to,
we can go through. Most of them you've received. There are a few policies that I was asked to prepare, and a few things that came in after I'd sent you the agenda.
I already read those. Okay, this I need. Did you get home okay yesterday?
I did, thank you.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, the good thing is there was no one on the roads, so
There you go.
I couldn't
They should've-
see. The highway was a mess, but there was not a person on it.
They should have put the state of emergency yesterday, not the
I
other
thought
day.
yesterday was worse than the other.
Yesterday was
stuff.
worse.
Yesterday
way
was worse. I mean, the volume
And
was
the
worse
time of
last
day,
week, but
It was, I
the
can't
roads
believe
were
it.
much, much worse
They
than
did it
last
from
week.
midnight to 7 when everyone was sleeping last time.
Yeah, it was a tough commute
The
yesterday.
visibility was
It was.
none.
It was down for about 7.5 hours, almost 8 hours, there was no visibility.
Just to bring to your attention, 3 items in the correspondence. Betty, you had given me a couple of ideas. Actually, your idea about maybe we should write some policy regarding, you know, what the rules should be for Board of Selectmen members to attend public meetings, and also what the, you know, some guidelines that you had suggested regarding membership on boards and commissions by Board of Selectmen. So, I have a couple of drafts here. They're marked drafts in big letters. So I guess that means that's a draft. So I thought maybe you might both look at these and kind of kick them around for at least 2 weeks.
Okay.
Before we bring them back, and maybe we can put them on February 23rd to discuss them.
I
know
had them on next week to discuss, that way if you wanted to discuss them and make any changes, you
Okay.
can, or
and
I
then-
can move it to
and
the
then-
23rd.
Oh, that's right, and then still wait a couple of weeks,
So the
yeah.
drafts are the ones in blue. That's
Right.
all the stuff. Okay.
And then the other thing is, I asked Denise to help me kind of tighten up the public comment portion of the meeting, because there's some legal, there's some laws that are attached to that, so I just thought we might want to tighten that up a little bit. I think one of the key things about this policy that I wrote with Denise about this is that we probably don't want to have it completely open-ended. We do want to have people get in touch with us, let us know that they are coming in and what they want to talk about.
That's helpful.
The primary reason for that is that several of the people that did come in and speak, we could have been in a position where we could have referred them to someone who could really help them with their issue.
Another committee, maybe?
Another committee, for example, so. So same thing, this is also in draft form, so based on Denise's suggestion, we'll put them on next week, but then we won't approve them for at least 2 weeks afterwards, you know, the kind of the two-minute meeting rule.
The babies.
That sound all right?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, good, thanks.
Absolutely.
Come on in, make yourself comfortable.
Where is,
Who's what?
I'm trying to keep everything out. Okay, here we go, right here. How you doing?
How are you?
Good.
Right on time.
Right on time. Come on in, folks, make yourself comfortable. There's plenty of seating, that's for sure.
Anybody else coming, Josh? That's it? Is that your grandmother with you? Does she want to sit up close? So she can see this happen? She's welcome to. Okay. And your mom, is that your mom?
You can come right up here.
You can
Front and center.
have a front seat.
This is a big event for us too, you know.
Okay, 6:15, and we're here to appoint Officer Joshua Sindoni to the Groveland Police Department. And Jeff, are you going to be doing the honors, or is the chief?
The chief will be.
Okay. Anytime you're ready.
Okay.
Ann, are you going to join us up front, because you'll be swearing him in? Very good.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us tonight. Give you a little background. In spring of 2014, one of our full-time officers advised me that he had a chance to work for his hometown city of Newburyport, and he would be leaving us. So at that time, I posted the full-time job opening, and out of 12 of our reserves, we had 7 apply. And I did a detailed process, which included a written examination. I hired an outside company, public safety consultants, and the gentleman came in, administered the test to the candidates, and that phase was worth 50% of the final grade, final score. The second phase was an oral review board, and I brought in a panel of sergeants from outside departments who did not know any of the candidates. We had a sergeant from Rowley, Boxford, and Danvers. There was a series of questions that the officers were asked. To back up too, when I posted the job, it was only open to our reserves in-house in our department. It wasn't open to anyone to the outside. And so our reserves were asked questions about the job, about the town, different scenarios. And on that phase, that was worth 30% of the final grade. And then the final phase of the 3-phase process was an interview with Deputy Gillen and myself. And at that time, we interviewed the officers one at a time, and we took into consideration, there was a point system where we looked at years of service, all the different training that they had received, and that score was worth 20%. So the 3 phases totaled 100%. Out of the 7 candidates, I had 2 front runners that were well above the other 5, Officer Sindoni and Officer Pekoski, and they were within, I believe it was 1.2 points of each other. That's how close it was. Officer Pekoski has gone on to Methuen, his hometown, and Officer Sindoni is my choice tonight for the full-time position. Josh has worked very hard. He's been a great reserve. He's a lot of initiative. He got his bachelor's degree in criminal justice. When I hired him as a reserve, he put himself through the full-time academy. So he's all academy trained and ready to go. And one of the things that's really impressed me about Josh is he said, since he came on board here, he says, I want to work full-time for the town of Groveland, and that's been his desire. So he's my recommendation.
Terrific.
Very good, Josh. Ann Brody's our town clerk. We'll make it official, and she'll swear you in, and you'll sign your name, and you'll be one of the Groveland Police Department's
Thank you.
officers. Thank you for coming in with your family tonight.
This means a lot to me and my family.
Very good. And it's not snowing tonight, it's just cold. Okay.
I should appoint first.
We'll probably want
Okay.
to point first. Bill, did you want to make a
Well,
motion?
ready to
I'll make
go
a
after I
motion
heard
to,
all the
Yeah,
Yeah, we're
good
ready to
stuff.
skip that part.
I'll make a motion to appoint Josh Sindoni as a full-time officer in the town of Groveland, based on the chief's recommendations and the criteria that he has worked up to get this position,
And effective February 1.
and effective February 1.
Effective February 1, okay.
Oh, do I have a second?
Sure, I'd like to second that and open it up to discussion. I want to
well,
thank you for your service as well, and we're really, really proud of you. We're proud of the fact that you brought in your family as well. It's a very important job that you're taking on, and to know that your family's behind you is important to us as well. We really appreciate that. Appreciate all of you coming in. And who's that little young man over there, that young man?
That's one of my little guys, Cole.
Cole.
And the other one, Ryder, sitting on my wife's lap.
Terrific,
Ryder and Cole, huh?
That's me.
Very good.
terrific.
I think it's a small town, and I think you'll like it here. I think you're gonna see it as a stepping stone to go bigger and better places, and I think it's a good place to learn, and I think the police department is a well-put-together station over there, and I think you'll do well.
Thank you very much.
And your mom is
Congratulations.
obviously very proud of you.
Yeah.
Yes, I could tell. I could tell.
I'd also like to thank the chief and the lieutenant for a job well done. I don't know how you make that type of decision. It must be very difficult, especially when you have qualified people that are so close, but you were able to make an excellent decision for us, and we thank you for your services.
If I could just say, Josh is pretty much time tested too. He's been with us for a while now.
How long?
It's been a few years, four? I
4
was gonna say
years.
three, it's been 4 years already.
Wow.
It's amazing how time flies by.
Right.
He's stepped up in so many occasions with the nights, weekends, holidays, what we really need reserves for.
Sure.
And somebody that does scheduling, I've really appreciated that. He's helped out quite a bit. And not to embarrass him, but if you see the presentation in front of you today, that's how he comes to work every
I
day.
see the boots.
He work like that. He's really an impressive officer, and, you know, I'm proud of him as everybody else is. So I want to thank everybody too for supporting us with this.
The good thing about it is, it seems like you guys really put in place a good hiring method. I mean, it's good that he's been with the town as long as he has, 4 years, and got to know the station and how the station operates, and sounds like what you guys done is like the criteria, the step criteria that you did to hire him was really good.
It's kind of a test in itself, being a reserve in Groveland. They go through a lot of different processes, just doing the job, and not everybody makes it, you know. So that's why I say he's kind of been tested along the way. So it's been kind of a work in progress for 4 years, so.
Now, if you can explain a little bit, it's an appointment for 1 year, and it's probationary, that's customary?
That's customary, yes. And then at the end of the 1 year, he would get into the union, the collective bargaining agreement between the officers in the town.
Okay,
That's traditionally the way it always has been, so a 1-year probation period.
okay.
And then at that point, he'll be appointed for 3 years. That's normally how it would go. The board would appoint 3 years.
I'm sure the board will move to appoint you, and then shortly thereafter, after the town clerk has sworn you in, we can call you Officer Sindoni. So in anticipation of that, Officer Sindoni, do you have any questions of us, the Board of Selectmen?
I do not.
Okay.
I want to express my gratitude for being here today and how much it means to me.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Betty?
I always said I always felt that the reserve police officers took the same risks as everybody else. When you were out there at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, you were doing your job and doing it the best of your ability. So we've always appreciated the reserve officers as well as our full-time officers. Well, I'll make it unanimous that Josh be appointed to a full-time position on the Groveland Police Department. And Denise, have you taken care of paperwork with Josh, or will you have to?
We'll have to
soon?
do some more paperwork.
Okay. All right.
Okay, it's unanimous?
So it's
Approved.
unanimous, all in favor? Unanimous. Congratulations, Josh. And do you come forward and take care of this final detail for us? You want to stand next to him, Mrs. Sendall?
Oh, could I?
Yes, you could, certainly. Proud moment for you.
Didn't even have to tell you. I, Joshua, do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of patrolman
of the office of patrolman
during the term for which I have been appointed.
for the term for which I have been appointed.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Stay well.
I will. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks.
Something else right now. Do we have time for pictures with Josh?
You can, yes, you can certainly take pictures.
How about Mrs. Sindoni?
Yes. Would you mind if I do? Geez. Yeah, smile. This is it's a good day. All right.
You know, you should take a picture too, you have that. Just my suggestion.
That's a good suggestion.
Tracy.
I can't.
Is this, Denise, did we want to
The
do it in
town
front of this
camera.
camera? Did that-
No, I was trying to get that camera to, so they could get the better angle, that's why I had it.
Okay.
Probably not. Yeah. Jeez.
Good job.
Jeez.
Good long one.
He knows how to do that stuff. Yeah, I think we have Larry White, then we have, is Jeff going to give us a
Yes, so we have one more
recap
appointment, and
of
then we'll speak with Jeff. Yep.
Great.
Is Larry here?
No, he wasn't coming.
Okay.
We're just gonna appoint.
Can I just skip over it and go?
No,
we'll
you
do it.
still need to appoint him.
Okay.
But he wasn't, we
Um,
weren't planning for him to be here.
We have to appoint full-time highway senior laborer Lawrence White from Rollins Street in Groveland as a member of the Groveland Highway Department. Do I have a motion to do that?
I'll make a motion to appoint Larry S. White of 39 Rollins Street, Groveland, to the senior driver operator on the highway department for the town of Groveland,
Effective January
Effective.
26th.
January 26th.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? We're all set?
I've read his background, he's got quite a bit of background, he's got his licenses all in place, he's got some education, so I think he, looks like he's got everything we need.
Yeah, Bill, you would know about all those.
Yeah, he's got his hoisting engineer. he has
Licenses that-
OSHA, CDL-B, transportation workman, identification, Massachusetts Department of Public Health, EMT, so he's very well rounded for the position, I think.
Very good. So, all in favor?
Aye?
Aye, unanimous. Okay. And it's 6:30, which is just about 6:30. Deputy Gillen's going to recap the recent storms with us. What's that?
So I had sent a letter, hopefully you guys got to see it, that the good news, there wasn't much to report. We handled it very well. We've been very fortunate, and I really attribute that to, first of all, the highway department. I mean, those guys just do a great job. That's the main thing, is keeping the roads open. And I can go right down the line with the light department, keeping their lines cleared, the trim-in program that they have in town regarding the trees and the branches. So before the storm, I went right through and I talked to the department heads in the water, highway, light, met with Chief Kamelowitz, talked to Chief Bob Lay, Bob Arakalian. Met with the superintendent of schools that day prior to the storm, made sure we had a place if we did need a shelter. The Salvation Army also had a place for us, so I checked on that. Betty was nice enough to call me. She actually had some great ideas that we talked about, as far as having Trinity.
Trinity put the ambulance in town, which was nice for
Yeah.
everybody that would be concerned.
So, my letter was mostly a thank you letter, because, you try to prepare, that's what this is really all about, is preparedness. And, when you start reaching out and seeing the help that we have in town, it's very comforting. And, everybody just stepped up again, it worked out fine. And, there really were no issues. I know in the past I've reported, issues, and that's why I think I said to you, Denise, that usually in my after-action reports would be a little more detailed, talk about power outages or trees down or different types of calls and crashes, and I just had none of that. Not because we weren't watching, it just didn't happen. It was that impressive of a storm. You know, I got calls about shelters and things, but the preferred response to that is to encourage to shelter at home, just shelter in place. So I don't try to encourage people coming out and coming to a comfort zone just for the sake of coming out. In that sense, I don't set up a shelter just for the sake of having it. Those things are there if we need them. So I felt really comfortable. The chief and I were there throughout the storm, so we had the dispatch open, and I was in touch with MEMA. They keep up to date with any contact. We have different catch sites for equipment if we needed it, but we're really prepared. I know the water department offered if we're really in a jam, they could even come up with a couple plows. So again, it was a great group effort, and I had no complaints about anything regarding the storm and the preparedness.
Just so the public knows, what is your position in the town regarding emergency management, formally?
The emergency management director for the town of Groveland. So I have a great working relationship with MEMA. We work with FEMA. It involves not monthly meetings, quarterly meetings. There's training. I've got all my certificates. Again, just having those contacts. My next group that I'm going to be meeting with is the American Red Cross. We had a meeting that was canceled. So I have the networking is really great, and just having your name out there and meeting the people and just having people to call upon.
I think it's a good idea, you know, having the, I did read the letters before the storm and saw that you're working hard to do what you needed to do. And it is reassuring, it's reassuring to know that you have those people in place, and you guys are in place, and you know what's going on, so I definitely think it's a good idea. And, you know, if we have a situation like that, if everyone knows what's going on and we're all working together, we're all gonna come up with the right outcome at the end of it.
Yeah.
And I think everything was done pretty well. I mean, I was confident, I was out plowing snow, I couldn't be around, but I was confident to see the emails come through, and I was pretty confident that, the town was covered. And I know Betty had talked about putting the ambulance in South Grove, and I said what a good idea that was, and what have you, so I think we did well, I really do.
Well, where we're at now, and thank you, Bill, the NEMA wants the IDA, the initial damage assessments done, and Bob Arakalian has great experience and knowledge in that area. I've talked to him as early as today, because they have to be in Monday, and what that means is they're gonna take our county, and all the communities will put in their assessment damage, and if we can reach that threshold, you know, we may qualify to get some funding back. So, in this case, it's really Bobby's department, Bob Arakalian's department, because he was the only one out, you know, that had to respond and do his job. They don't pay for standby. So it's really, it's what numbers Bobby comes up with, and I believe it's, you know, it's probably talking 50,000, maybe more. So it certainly would be nice if we could get some money back for that. And I've worked with Bob in the past, and been successful in getting funds back to our community. So I'll make sure that that's done with the help of Bob. He's really the one that puts it together, and I will assist him.
When you have a travel restriction that's set by executive order by the governor, are we in our town obligated to enforce it legally?
Yes, that's been kind of a gray area, and the chief might be able to comment too, because the chief's legal counsel gives us some guidance on that. They don't suggest that we go out and arrest people, which we wouldn't want to do that. I mean, if somebody's out, you hope it's for a reason that they think is good.
Right.
But every so often you have somebody that's out for a reason they shouldn't be out. We didn't see that problem that I know of. You know, there's a lot of people that have to get to work, nurses, doctors.
Yeah, the
healthcare people.
MEMA had, and part of the executive order, had a list of exemptions.
So, for us to know that, we have to stop these people in the middle of a blizzard.
Yeah.
And if they're out there, I mean, you know how bad it was built.
Right, there wasn't many people out there, there was a few, but not a lot.
But it is a gray area, basically.
Yeah.
Well, there is, as far as, you know, do you arrest them, do you give them a certain ticket? What they've said is, just do a summons and let the courts deal with it. You know, bring it in later, but get them off the road too, so.
Right.
I've never had that problem with I'm not saying it doesn't happen in Groveland, but it hasn't been a problem, right, Chief?
No, and one thing that we tell the officers, excuse me, is we don't want you chasing down cars and stopping cars in a snowstorm. You know, if there's a situation and it's a safe situation, you can stop a car and ask why they're out, that's one thing, but, you know, we don't want them cruisers up and down the streets chasing cars, so. And as Bill said, there really weren't many people out.
But one of the biggest problems in the town of Groveland has right now, and it's a bylaw problem, is people blow the snow back in the roads. And they make a mess. You can go by, you can get, the highway department does a great job of doing these roads, but you can get them cleaned, and 20 minutes later, the snow's back out there, and people just throw it out there, and it's crazy, and you're going back, and you know. And now they have social media, so everyone's criticizing the town, not doing a good job. The stuff ends up back on the street, it's gonna end up back over there again. And we can't, I guess from what I understood, we can't enforce it because it's not a bylaw or whatever, but, I mean, I know you can, it really it makes it a harder job for the highway department.
I believe there's a bylaw for pushing snow across the public way.
Yeah.
Right.
Again, it's probably not enforced or used like it should be.
Right.
It's, at times like this, you know, that's something we could try to help out with.
Yeah.
Again, we're just trying to work with the residents.
Right.
We're in a situation where the snow is so high.
Yeah.
I don't think people know what to do with it.
Right.
They're just trying to
Right,
put it someplace.
exactly.
And it is counterproductive for the highway guys and all the contractors, again, that are out there doing a great job. It's kind of frustrating, but,
It is.
um,
A lot of people, you know, they're complaining now because the snow's so high, and they're like, you know, where do we put it? You know what I'm saying? What do you do? You know what I'm saying? It's there. What are you gonna, pile it up, you know?
we have.
But
more
I wouldn't,
comments.
hopefully don't throw it out in the road, you know?
I like the red code, is that what you call it, the red code
The
that was
alert.
put out for the fire hydrants?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was huge,
The
that
water
was
department
important.
did that, yeah.
I know that on my street, I do one and a neighbor does another, but I struggled with that, and I did it again yesterday 3 times.
Yeah.
You know, so might not be a bad idea to maybe do another one of those, because this, I think the snow we had yesterday seemed worse than the blizzard
So,
last
too,
year.
yeah.
I actually talked to, the highway, I was out today in the hydrants, the whips are just showing now. So I actually had, early in the meeting tonight, asked Betty about asking the fire chief or whatever, maybe we can find out about getting those hydrants cleaned out, whoever does it, because they're buried, they're under 4.5, 5 feet of snow now. I know it's not your job, but,
It's a highway department issue, that's the problem.
Well,
The water department's.
water department, that's
Water
right, Jeff.
department.
Yeah.
I did make a call to somebody, and they said the water department.
I think the greatest thing is that you adopt a hydrant. It's really for the benefit of the people in the
Absolutely.
neighborhood.
most people do, I mean,
Yeah.
for the most part, unless they're on a main drag, you see them, you know. But in most of the residential neighborhoods, you see them cleaned out.
In Haverhill, the firemen do it.
Yeah, I know, they usually get together, I've seen them.
But they usually pay to be in the station, so they can send them out there. One person that was very helpful, Lynn Stanton, because I did give her a call. She knew which elderly people might be very frightened during that storm, especially people with medicines they need to get, or oxygen, so Lynn was part of all of that, and
Thank you. Yeah,
she's a great resource.
She really is, and she does great by the seniors, and
Right.
I actually reached out to her even after the storm, and just sent her an email, just remind her of my position, and
Yeah.
if there's anything I can do to make sure that, you know, she gives me heads up that,
Right. Anybody we can help.
yeah, so.
I got a kind of a candid, quick question for you. My daughter's a nurse, and she was giving me a hard time. She said, "Dad, you gotta come pick me up in the morning and take me over to the hospital." I says, "No, I'm not gonna." She goes, "I'll call the police, they have to do it." Is that true that the police have to, or is she just riding me?
She needed a ride.
Yeah.
Both.
I argued with her, I'm like, no,
I don't know of
both.
any law that would say that, you know, I mean, the Good Samaritan law, if somebody.
Because I'm a nurse, I get a ride from the police.
It's been done in the past.
I'm sure it has.
We would do that, actually, if
Yeah.
somebody was in a.
She's an
position-
ER nurse, too.
Yeah.
They're usually in the back though.
Yeah,
One of the other
but
ones.
no, I don't know of any law that.
Yeah, no.
I mean, we have a duty to act to save people, but.
I hope she's watching, I'm embarrassed her.
You sent her a note.
Citation.
Well, thank you for your hard work. We got through this storm, first storm, I think we're getting through the second storm, and I hate to say that I look at the long-range weather, and it looks like snowflakes are falling other places, so. Anything else we need to discuss tonight?
I'd like to add, since Jeff has taken over as the EMD, it's been a very squared away program. As you guys know, you're getting all the emails and the updates, and we're getting money back to the town, and so 2 or 3 years now you've been doing it?
5, maybe?
Really?
I
Time
lose
goes fly.
track of time, but it might be,
Right.
It's well improved from the way it was.
this is my 5th year here.
How was it before?
Well, we had some part-time employees, someone would take it for a couple of years, they wouldn't want to do it anymore, then someone else would do it. It was starting to become a problem.
Yeah.
And Jeff stepped up and he took the position, and he's been doing a great job.
It's really pretty important today, that position. It really is, because
Yeah.
it's involved. You're talking with the state, and you're talking police department to police department, fire department, highway. It's a pretty involved and important position, and it really needs, especially with 9/11 and, all this terrorist stuff. I mean, you really gotta be knowing your stuff.
Sure, you
Which
have
is really
Homeland,
good.
you have Homeland Security
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, it's definitely
All kinds
growing.
of
I mean, they're taking on more incidents, like, since the Boston bombings, that
Right.
they're involved in different crowd
Yeah.
events and some of the mandates and the trainings and things, so.
Sure.
Like years ago, it wasn't as well-known. It was more like just civil defense.
Right.
Was in place. And,
What kind of training do you do for this type of responsibility?
There's different levels of training to set up the emergency operations centers, like command training. And there's some I'm working like with the Board of Health. There's one like a biohazard type training that I'm going to Thursday. There's different levels of training, but I usually try to go to whatever I can go to. But MEMA offers certain trainings at different times that I go to. But just the training and the networking, or the meetings with the networking is probably the most helpful.
If in the budgetary process we approve the money for the new console, are there any new features or technological enhancements that will improve communications for emergency management?
Well,
That
the
you're
state,
aware of?
They give us the radios to communicate with them.
Mhm.
And then there's another one called, it's BAPRN. It's a more of a wider range
Mhm.
network that we also belong to. Then we have radios through Seabrook for the nuclear plant, so we're
Nuclear
doing
plant.
pretty well with I have got grants through the MEMA and NERAC for radios and flashlights over the last few years, so
Great.
we're in pretty good shape.
And that piece of equipment's pretty old, am I correct?
Yeah. It was pieced together over the years, since I've been here 25 years, and it's been pieced together a few times. I always ask people if you could just come over and I could just show it to you, it would just be so much easier
Right.
than trying to
I've actually
explain
seen it through the window.
That it's so bad now that when you open it up, you can't work, because I think over the years, they just cut the wires, they've never taken out and replaced. And what's happened now is we have our backup, and then that went down, or the main one went down, the main computer went down, so we put the backup in, and then they just announced to us that you can't get any more parts for this.
Right.
So we don't even have a backup now, so.
My biggest thing was when we were talking with the capital and the finance and all the other boards, I said that's the number one purchase of the year we should have right there. Before anything, we should purchase that piece of equipment. I think that's the most valuable. That's where the calls come in. That's where everything starts there. We need that piece first,
Yeah, no, I'm happy to hear you say that, and I appreciate the support, because it really is, it's the heartbeat of the
That's the heartbeat, yeah.
communication center for the whole town.
Right.
That we, after hours, we answer for light, highway, water.
Yeah.
Of course, we dispatch fire and police.
Mhm.
I think everybody agreed on that. There was
Yeah.
no discussion from capital, finance, and us.
And we recognize it's a huge expense, and I'm happy, because I think it just needs to be done that way, that it's so outdated. I mean, even the carpeting people are tripping on it, and the whole place needs a makeover, and the way it's situated, that people can look in and see our screens and our cameras, which they shouldn't, for privacy. So we're gonna redesign that, and
If it takes place, how long will it take to implement it?
I would
I
say,
mean, once they actually get the piece of equipment, will it take weeks or?
once they go to do it, I'm hoping they can do it like within a week or so,
Yeah.
a couple of weeks, because that's part of the expense. We have to set up a temporary
Right.
Service.
dispatch and service, and I guess the most difficult part is coordinating it all with the state to come in and change the 911 to another location, or we might have to put a trailer out front, like a temporary trailer. It's never been done, to kind of answer your question, since I've been here. The last couple chiefs have done some improvements over the years, but even the furniture and the actual console itself is just so outdated, and just doesn't look professional, you know,
Yep.
so.
We've had that conversation. We need to
Hmm.
update a lot of things, don't we? Thank you very much. Appreciate
Well done.
coming in and bringing Josh and his family.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Appreciate
Can tell
you
his
guys
mother
assisting
is-
because that's really a big moment for us and for Josh and his family, so it's nice to have it recognized in this
Yep.
fashion.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Good night.
Thank you.
Very much. Thank you.
Good night. Mike?
Just a point of order, if I can. I know that we normally have the resident or public comments
Yes.
portion at the very beginning, and we have one public member that attended the meeting. I don't know, did you have anything that you wanted to?
Oh, no.
You're just visiting? Okay. All right, thank you.
Just wanted to come to see if we're doing a good job. Mike? You're up.
Mike Dempsey, Groveland Conservation Commission, and I'm here tonight to explain a couple of warrant articles that I had submitted last year, and I think I
Thank you.
didn't come and speak with you about them
Thanks.
at that time. And so I wanted to make sure that this year, we could get it on the warrant for town meeting to get them voted on, and perhaps answer any questions that you had tonight. The first item, really the major item is, for this warrant article, is the updates and changes to the Town of Groveland Wetland Protection Bylaw. And, as you know, when we change bylaws, even a small change, it's tricky because you need to put into the warrant the way it is now and the way it's going to be, and try to make sure people understand it. So I went back over the warrant that I had submitted last year, and I tried to make it a little bit clearer. So I'll explain to you some of the things.
Did you say, Mike, you submitted this last year, but it
Yes.
wasn't quite?
Well, I don't think it was as documented
As
as
it is
I've
now.
got it here, yeah. And I think you decided that, I wasn't at the meeting, but you decided that it looked a little too complex to try to tackle at town meeting. So I'm hoping that we can do it this year. So the 5 things really that these changes affect are putting in the Rivers Protection Act, and many instances throughout the bylaw it references 100-foot buffer, but it doesn't really talk about a 200-foot buffer that the Rivers Protection Act affords. So I updated that. We also put in an increase in the peer review fees. We found that there was a case where the applicant on a particular project was keeping their estimate below the lowest number so that they didn't have to pay a fee to do a peer review.
That's it.
And
You get A for credit? Whatever? What do you get for being
Effort.
ingenious effort?
yes, right. And then some clarification on the seasonal restriction and the waiver process that goes along with that. And then also adding a requirement for a request of electronic document submission when people submit a notice of intent or some other permit application, that they also give us the electronic plans to go along with that. And then just a clarification on a non-criminal enforcement, so that we've got all of the Conservation Commissioner's ability to write tickets for any enforcement issues. So that's what is here.
Okay.
The majority of it actually is because of the Rivers Protection Act, because there's about 6 or 7 places throughout the bylaw where it talks about, it only talks about a 100-foot buffer, it doesn't talk about 200-foot buffer. And in the cases when it did, it only speak of, like on the first example, it only talked about 200-foot buffer of the Merrimack River, as opposed to 200-foot buffer of any river, stream, or brook, or creek. So went through and changed that.
I have a question about
Yes.
that. So, if I want to build a deck and I'm 600 feet away from the Merrimack River, I'm fine.
Yes.
But now, with the new bylaw, if we're going to implement the river protection, then every little creek or brook or stream that comes off the Merrimack River or feeds it has its own 200-foot buffer?
Well, under the Rivers Protection Act, not necessarily under our bylaw, but under the Rivers Protection Act, that's the way it is. As long as it's a perennial stream, it's a permanent stream that never stops flowing, yes, then it gets a 200-foot buffer on it.
If it's a stream that dries up
Yeah,
at
then
certain
it
times.
doesn't.
So it has to
Then
be,
it only has a 100-foot buffer,
All right.
which is the
has to be
normal.
perennial.
But if
Yeah.
someone was to build that deck, like Joe said, you guys did come before you, you'd talk about it, and you'd work it
Yes.
out with them. You're not,
Yes.
this isn't, I mean, it's not a definite, I mean, if
No,
they meet
what
the
it-
criteria, you might be able to let them build that deck or whatever.
Right,
Maybe it could be
right.
100, 175, or whatever.
It just means they have to come in.
They have to
and
come
file
before
a
you.
permit
Right.
to get one, right?
And most times you'd do a site visit.
Yes, yes.
If you were to put this on, just that one on town meeting, I understand the language, the wording, because I'm kind of in that business and I understand it. But if you were to put it onto town meeting, how would you do it? Would you just put that wording there, or would you put this other page to, how
Oh, I
would you,
think you gotta put all of these things
in there?
Yes, because in
To make it
each
understandable,
case, you
right.
see, I've got,
Yeah.
you know, the way it is now and the way
Yep.
it's gonna be.
Right, that makes sense.
So, number 2 is on page 3, it's the peer review fee. So we changed the fee so that we, not only did we make it so that there's always a fee, there's no project too small. So if you came in with a $200,000 project, typically now, there wouldn't be any fee for a peer review. We don't do peer reviews that often. It's only, we never do peer reviews on a single-family home. It's only a development, a developer's coming in to do something, and there's big wetland issues, or it's an industrial site. And that's when, you know, we would have them pay for a peer review of whatever they're submitting. So this kind of gives us a little more up-to-date on the fees for what it typically costs for a peer review.
Can I just ask a question on the fees?
Yes.
So did you survey like surrounding communities and their fees? It just seems like they're kind of high. I mean, to go from no fee to $7,500 on a
Well,
$150,000 and less cost?
this has not been changed since the bylaw was enacted in 1996. And when we did the last peer review that we did, which was 2 years ago, that it was a small pond in an industrial site. And so we asked for a peer review because it was kind of complicated. And I believe that's where we got the $7,500. It was, you know, in the $6,000 to $8,000 ballpark for the peer review.
Mike, would you be having any informational meetings regarding this document prior to town meeting?
Yes. What we will do, we had one last year, but, you know, now time's gone by, so
know,
I think
so fast.
what I'd like to do is have one in March. At our regular March meeting, we'll talk about this, and especially if we can get it on the camera to talk about it more at length, we'll do that.
Could you have your March meeting here so people could come in? Could you possibly do that? I think that might be a good idea.
Sure, instead of easy park.
Yeah. If you don't mind, just so this information
Yeah,
gets.
no, that
we-
makes sense.
If we advertise it, they'll come down. And council would get this before the warrant's drawn up, right?
Yes.
I think that would be helpful to some people.
Let's see,
Number 3.
number 5 on page 6 talks about the seasonal restriction period. We have a seasonal restriction so that between November 1st and April 15th, we don't typically we don't allow work in the buffer zone. And we don't, people respect it. I think it's valuable because, you know, it protects the buffer zone and the wetlands during the time where the ground may be frozen and, you know, there's no percolation into the soil, so you can get erosion problems if you, typically if you allow work during that time. So most people respect that. We haven't had any problem. The only time usually that we get waiver requests are for septic systems. Like this year, we had 2 that had to get waivers because of septic systems and they were selling the house. So we went through the process and, you know, we discourage it, so it's not, the purpose of the waiver fee is really to discourage waivers, and we don't typically get too many waivers. Every year, we may have 1 or 2 at the most, which makes me feel like we're doing the right thing. But we didn't really have any topic in the bylaw about the waiver system, so that's what that change to number 5 is, adding a paragraph about that.
And Mike, what fee would that be at?
Well, it's complicated. It can typically be $400 a day for a waiver. So, you know, most people, if they're gonna do a waiver, they'll come in and it makes like the septic, they'll do it in a week to get it done.
So even in an emergency situation, you would still charge a waiver fee?
Yes, there is a hardship clause in there, so, you know, if somebody's having, when someone's selling a house, it's not usually an issue because they're gonna generate funds from it, but other times, like we had I had one person this year that was gonna do, their septic system, and they decided, you know, they couldn't get somebody to do it before the waiver period, so they decided to hold off until the springtime, and they're just pumping their system on a monthly basis now. But they could have gone, I tried to encourage them to apply, because they could have gone for a hardship waiver if they absolutely had to. Number 6 is just, again, asking for submission of electronic documents in addition to the paper filings that we get. And then the last one, number 7, is just when within the town bylaw, there's already the ability for conservation to be able to write non-criminal tickets for enforcement process. We haven't used it yet, but this will enable any commissioner to be able to do that, not just, it was kind of vague, so we added that in to take care of
So
that.
that would be a civil penalty?
Yes, it's like a parking ticket.
So, hold on a minute now.
Yes,
The non-criminal enforcement. And I understand that we integrate this into the bylaw. Any person who violates the provisions of the bylaw, there are gonna be some consequences, and the commission can issue violation notices, administrative orders, and also basically engage with the courts. My only discomfort is that any one commissioner can do that on their own. I'm not comfortable with that. Is that customary?
Let's go back.
Does that mean he can, I kinda took it the way you were speaking, I thought,
Any commissioner can come to my property and say, you're in
Yes.
violation.
but
I'm gonna take you
under
to
the
court.
jurisdiction of the board, though, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Under the jurisdiction of the board.
Would also
The
be
board
appealable.
would make the decision to go out there, and then they could say, okay, instead of Mike's busy, the other guy could go. That's how I took it, am I wrong?
Well, we don't wanna interpret it, we wanna understand what
Okay.
this says. What this says is the disposition, for the purposes of non-criminal dispositions, all commissioners and any appointed agent are authorized for enforcement. That clearly means to me that people can act on their own. And that sounds like
Maybe we
a
have to word
liability
it, word it per order of the board.
for out of the board. Absolutely.
Or maybe,
I just don't want any.
maybe a number of board members have to
Yeah, whatever.
put a number on it.
Anything that.
A vote of 4 or a vote of 5, or,
Sure,
I don't know,
some kind of a.
I would,
Majority.
majority vote.
Already-
I would really like council to look at that, to see the enforcement part of it.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, we appreciate this, this is
Yep.
important, but we just don't wanna find ourselves that we create a liability based on the single unilateral action of one person. I mean, it's just not in the spirit of any board to allow anyone to do that, even chairs.
Has it ever happened, Mike?
No, typically, when there's an enforcement action, and we have not issued tickets, we haven't issued any, but when we do fines, and that's rare, but when we do fines, typically, again, it comes from the commission, a discussion. We try to do
Site
it
visit,
a lot ahead of time. We don't
Right.
want to just show up at someone's house and.
Right.
start writing
Right.
tickets.
Now,
Yeah.
what you can do in your language is you can have by vote of the board, a commissioner designated to go out and communicate the
Yeah.
enforcement.
Well, that's what we do now,
Yeah, which you do.
because usually it's not the full commission that's going
Yeah, we-
out somewhere.
We just want to stay within the spirit of people's expectations that individual board members can't act and enforce anything on their own,
Mhm.
that's all.
Mhm.
It's just sensible. I have no other problem with any of it, actually. I think actually it's very good that you do have enforcement capability.
The last thing was the other warrant article. This doesn't have to do with the bylaw. This was a change to the VZ revolving account it's currently limited to $80,000. We wanted to increase it to $90,000 because I don't expect it this year, but last year that we definitely had a problem where we had to limit our spending, even though we had the money in the account, because of heating costs and some repairs that we did at VZ Park.
Because you went over the $80,000
Yeah, I couldn't go over the 80, I had to,
But the funds were available.
yes.
Denise, did you read that one?
Yes, I did. I mean, I don't have a problem as long as town meeting approves it. One thing, though, with regard to the revolving account, and this will go for anyone with a revolving account, and I don't know what's been done in the past, the law does require a report of all revolving funds. So I would like going forward it to be in writing, and we can actually include them in the warrants to show your revenue and expenditures so that people can see what you're taking in and what you're spending that money on. Like I said, it is required in the law to have a report at town meeting each year, and I think it would be informative to have it actually printed right within the warrant.
I can do that.
So I will be sending something out as we're getting closer to that, to the 3, I believe, revolving accounts we have.
Yes.
But I don't have a problem if town meeting agrees with this, that's not a problem for me.
So you would need that disclosure for all 3.
Correct, so the law requires anyone with revolving accounts must give report to town meeting and to say what they're spending their money on, what type of revenue, so that they can actually ask for it to continue. Again, I don't know what's happened in the past. When I attended town meeting last year, that wasn't done. And I think it's helpful for people to actually see it and read it instead of getting a verbal report. So I think for all 3 revolving accounts, I will be requesting something in writing each year to file with the annual warrant.
What are the 3 revolving accounts besides the conservation BZ Park?
Summer recreation
Oh,
and the
the
boat
sum-
ramp, I believe
the
are the
boat
3.
ramp, okay.
I don't think we have any others. Yeah, we don't do
The recreation program, I'd like to see that too.
yes.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you, great job.
Okay. After 7, we're going to discuss the Center Street property and the potential for resale commercial value and a discussion on the proposed Center Street Greenway Planning Committee. And Bob, are you here for that?
Yes.
With Alex and Mike?
Yeah, so if I may, so we had an agenda item a few weeks ago to discuss the planning committee. Last fall, Alex started working on putting a committee together, but it was never formally recognized by this group in a vote.
Right.
So we had it on there to discuss. In addition, a few of the board members have asked to have an agenda item to discuss Center Street in general and the potential for commercial property. So I did combine it into one, so you can discuss, you know, your thoughts, and then whether or not you need to put a committee together, or what the charge for that committee would be. So that's why the agenda item is there.
Okay. Alex, you were working on a committee, correct?
I was.
Yeah.
I can show you a snapshot of where it
Great.
stood as of around Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Would you like to see that?
Sure.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So I had, as Denise indicated, I had, based on our earlier discussion, I had started the process of reaching out to a number of the boards, as well as some other unaffiliated individuals, to try to assemble the committee in concept. And that's how far I'd gotten around Thanksgiving, and then I had been asked to put it on hold for the board's request until there was further dialogue, decision about whether or not there was a need for the committee. So as a refresher of our conversation from the fall, you know, clearly the town has spent a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort acquiring this property. And as you recall, it's not subject to a conservation restriction. It is an open piece of property owned and controlled by the board and the town. And so my suggestion, or our suggestion to the board in the fall, had been, now that we own this property, and given that the town has spent a lot of its taxpayers' money, in fact bonded a lot of money to acquire the property, we just want to make sure that, and frankly, it's helped the town to, whatever the town decides to do with it, that we do it in as all-encompassing and objective a manner as we can. Because I think we want to be careful that certainly no decisions about that property, I think a lot of people are very emotional about that property, but that no decisions about that property are made in a vacuum, and that where possible, we can try to do it in a way that really represents the needs and the desires of the broader populace. And so, hence the proposal for the planning committee, which really was in concept an idea of getting both a number of representative boards and committees, as well as a bunch of, the way we term sort of unaffiliated individuals, into a committee that could really come up with almost a mini master plan specific to that property. And I think the way we envisioned it originally, it would involve certainly a number of open forums, some surveying probably, perhaps some studies. You know, the idea is we certainly are not in a rush necessarily to task the property overnight, and that whatever we do with the property, we should do it thoughtfully. And so the idea was the committee would do these studies, would do open forums, would engage with the community, would have this dialogue, certainly engage with the BOS, come up with what essentially would be a glorified recommendation for what essentially the town, in its broader sense, you know, has expressed as its desires and needs for the property. And then the BOS could then, at that point, certainly choose to accept or decline that suggestion to the committee, but that it would give you, in theory, a framework, and so the board then, certainly to the extent they were acting on the recommendations of that planning committee or the mini master plan for that property, would obviously be supported by the broader town in those activities. And so that really was the catalyst for this discussion. So, again, what I handed you is sort of a couple of snippets of a mission statement around the committee, really why we tried to, or why we were trying to formalize it, and then some initial thoughts of, these are people that had initially committed to date before we put this on hold. So obviously, if we were to continue, I'd love to see us finish filling out the committee, because I do think we need some broader representation in there.
There are 14 members, 15, I missed
If
a
you
page.
don't,
Some of them are.
Yeah.
I don't know if that counts Denise or not, but. And the number may be off by one. I think the idea was basically to have an odd number so that we,
Right, for
an odd number
voting.
not counting Denise, so that we could take votes and have recommendations.
One thing that I'm a big advocate on that property, and I've been very boisterous about it, is I would like to see, as we go forward, possibly, and you stated in your statement, that it costs us a lot of money to own that property. So I was thinking, Groveland needs business. I'm not saying make the whole thing business, but if we would take off maybe 8 lots in the front on Center Street, or put some kind of business to the front of it where we can recoup some money, maybe put it toward the bond, get the bond down, we're not borrowing that much money, and trying to either make some revenue in there. We have no money right now to fund that property, to do any surveying. So if we could come up with some kind of a plan where we're using the property to get some revenue out of it somehow, to make the property go forward. I don't know if it can be done, because I was told that if we do sell it, it has to go to the bond, go to the end of the bond, and you can't use the money to operate with. But at least we're not having that much money on the other, on a bond. But that was one of my thoughts, and I think that, I'm not sure how it went, it's been a while, but maybe the reason we had this on hold is we want to have a conversation about maybe a little more business in there, then maybe have you guys look at more business, I guess, how we.
I think before we put the committee together, we wanted it to be a cross-section of the community. Not people that just all think alike.
Mhm.
And Bill has brought this forward about some commercial lots in the front, if it's possible. Because I just would defer to Denise, where would we get any startup money to do anything out there, surveying or anything?
You'd have to appropriate it.
Yeah. And I think people have really gone above and beyond by saying, let's buy it, and now what do we do with it, and how do we do it, and those kinds of things.
And I completely sympathize with that position, and frankly, if I'm as objective as possible right now, in my view, everything's on the table as an option, short of us agreeing to put a waste center in there.
Nuclear site.
Exactly, but, that said, I wouldn't wanna, what I don't wanna do, and what I'm very sensitive about, is I certainly don't want us to rush to judgment about anything that may prohibit us from doing other things down the road, right? So it may seem like, in the short term, a great idea, either to cut down some of the bond, or to give us some operating, whatever the rationale is, but part of my thought here is we need to at least have an initial dialogue. We need to have some discussions. Frankly, I see no reason why, if we're trying to consider all options, I see no reason why business of some sort can't be factored in here, or at least considered. Right now, if the town comes back, just conceptually, if the town, and I don't think this is gonna be the result, but if the town were to come back and 95% of the town were to say, I don't wanna see commercial on that property, I would think that would at least be a good indication that that's, a direction the town would like to go. If the town comes back and says, absolutely, let's sell all the frontage and get some of that cash back, great, we should probably be listening to the broader will of the town. But I don't wanna assume that people sitting in this room, necessarily that we all have those answers right now. And so that's why I wanna take the time to figure that out.
So do we go to somehow and ask the town people at town meeting or whatever? Is there a way we can take a vote take a vote of the people or something, I mean.
Well, I think that's what the committee would do.
No, I
think
understand.
they
I
would
clearly
hold-
understand.
I think they would hold public forums. There are certain, we could put surveys on our website for people. We could send out a mailer if we wanted to. I mean, I think that's what their purpose would be, is
Right.
to educate the community and get
And I
feedback.
think that's where we need to go with it. And like you said, if they come back and they're saying they're good with the bond the way it is, and they're good with the money, and they wanna keep it open space, then we find a way of making it open space.
Right, and I think there, frankly, you and I can come up with a handful of things that we think would be great on the property.
Mhm.
There's probably just as many or 5 times as many other ideas
Oh, yeah.
that either A, would raise revenue and/or B, benefit the broader part of the community that we're not even thinking about right now.
Right.
And so part of this is just frankly a fact-finding exercise, and not to belabor the effort or the process, but I really think it's important that we gather this information we don't have.
Right. What I would like to see happen is continue on with the board, and maybe once you get the board assembled, maybe
Yep.
they can sit before us, if it's okay with the chair and Joe, and we can have a little conversation about where we're trying to head and talk a little bit, so they all know what we're all thinking, and then move forward from there.
Well, I'd like to add to that. I have been an advocate for a conservation subdivision with this property for many, many years, and I know that there's discussion that Bill brought up, and other people in town, that there's potential for development, but I absolutely believe in and have faith in the process. And so I totally agree with you. The only way to settle this issue, along with all issues related to how we're going to ultimately use this piece of property, is to engage the community through this committee. So the formulation of the committee is the first step. Getting a special charge from us is a second step, and that's the point where, as Bill indicated, we can certainly, provide some guidance as to what we'd like to, the committee to do and not do. But we'd have to keep it open-ended. We can't, create a bias within the committee either, and kind of stock it with people that want just open space or just, recreation and soccer fields or houses and buildings and commercial. We really have to engage in the process and be as fair as possible to create a committee that is representative as possible. And it is possible. Betty and I were in opposite position, and we voted in opposite position on the Government Advisory Council. We went through an 18-month study. We had some pretty important discussions, some of them a bit contentious. We brought lots of people in from all over town and different departments and committees, and we created a monumental event. We transformed our government from a 3-member board to a 5-member board. So this is almost just as important, and I do believe in the process, so I am absolutely in favor of settling these issues, including Bill's idea specifically, but to come through this committee by studying, by debating, and by voting, so that then you can come back and say, this is what the committee advises the Board of Selectmen and the town of Groveland to do, based on our process.
And Joe, I would tell you, if I'm not disagreeing with at least one or more of the people on this committee, I probably haven't done my job right.
Right.
And so I suspect that's already the case. Obviously, we've got a couple more slots to fill. I would point to the fact that, I do have what I've titled here as a number of citizen at larges.
Yep.
I've identified a couple from different spots in town. But again, there are a couple of those slots left, to the extent that the board has people that you think would fill a perspective that's not necessarily on here yet.
Right.
And again, part of the goal was to have some people that, we've got some people that represent some boards and committees, because there's some input that we need in terms of making sure we're considering various issues, right? But then there's also the citizen at large concept, which is intended to be unaffiliated with a particular board or committee, because we want that sort of independent viewpoint that isn't, just focused on open space or affordable housing or recreation, or what have you.
I think as long as we go at it, at the end of the day, the town people have the say, that, I think we can't go wrong. If we're gonna say your board has the say, then we're gonna go wrong, or if we're gonna say the selectmen are gonna have the say, we're gonna go wrong, you know what I'm saying? So if the town has the input, and we take what the town, like you said, the town says, we can't go wrong.
Right.
And if we keep that in mind, we'll be fine.
And I again, Bill, the way I see this committee is really a conduit for
Yep.
gathering and digesting
Yep,
and
I
evaluating that
agree,
information.
I agree. I'm not criticizing you at all. I appreciate the work you've put into it already, and I think we're gonna go, we'll be fine with it. I mean, we have the dialogue of where we're heading with it. I think we're gonna be good. And I think if we have the first meeting, once you get your board, you know, we can come in, have one meeting with the selectmen, and we can talk about it, and we all understand, and we'll move forward with it, and let the town people at the end of it have to say what they wanna do with it.
So, just so I'm clear, just so we're clear, I want to make sure I have the right to-dos. So, you guys are okay with or approving my continuing to solicit the people that we talked about, and/or you're going to give me a couple more suggestions,
Right.
hopefully, to fill this out. Once I've come up with that list, do we have a timeline that we want to work on?
Yes, sooner
I'll-
rather than later.
It's a great idea. Do we want to set a date in this? I don't know how, at this point, I don't know how soon is soon. Obviously, we want to be sensitive to the fact that as we get closer to the annual or the town meeting, it's going to be harder to do
Right.
something like this. But
How
do we
much
want,
time do you think you're gonna need to finish filling the slots? Month?
yeah, a month.
All right.
But then you have to get everybody together and start meeting and talking and
So,
discussing.
so first, the board would actually need to vote tonight to create this committee.
Right.
Then obviously, you would have to appoint all the members.
Right.
So,
But with Alex's help.
correct, so
All
he
I'm
could
doing is
recommend
providing-
everybody,
Right,
but you still
right.
have,
No,
you
I
still have to
understand,
appoint
I
everybody.
understand.
Well,
And then, yes, you
are
could
we
have a
going to
meeting.
Are you suggesting that we need to have something ready for town meeting this year?
No.
No.
All I'm suggesting is, there's a lot of moving parts. I want to make sure
Yeah.
we get it right. I'm not
Yeah.
racing to put people here. So, I can get you the recommendations, but in terms of a date, you know, if we look now, we're in February, we're getting late, we're talking late March. At that point, are you working with the finance committee, trying to get the budget done, are we
Right,
tied
there's
up
a
in
lot of-
things? So we could try to do something at the very beginning of April if we want, put it on the agenda, we can always move it if we need to, or we can just defer until after town meeting. The question then is, you're deferring really until like June. So I just,
Yeah, that should, once we get into June, it's hard to get people together because kids are playing ball and everybody's in different directions.
It would
Would be
be
good to have that first meeting with the committee be, maybe, I don't know, do you think after town meeting,
we can look at dates.
May or sometime?
So Betty, do you think we should vote or just provide consensus to have Alex continue?
I think we should,
You should actually vote, because I had a few people that Alex had approached to be on the committee
Came in.
that came and questioned whether or not it was a real committee. So I do think you should vote and form one before people are being solicited to
thought
be
they were
on
being
committees.
scammed.
Yes.
So I think the fact that you would support such a committee, you should vote to form one.
Want
In
me to
my
make a motion,
opinion.
Joe?
All right, I'd like to make a motion that we support Mr. Johnson in his efforts to make recommendations to form the Center Street Greenway Committee.
Discussion?
Second, Bill?
Is there a second, then discussion?
Seconded.
All right, discussion item, it's
The
not,
only discussion would be that, as long as the board will come before us, and that's it.
well, they have to, because
Right,
we have
have
to give them a charge.
Right,
And
I have
then
no problem with that.
We actually have two interventions before the committee is completely formed. Intervention number one, we have to give them a charge.
Right.
And then we have
Number
to
two,
appoint
we
them.
have to appoint all the members.
Right.
So the board does have the discretion that if we feel that those that are lined up for appointments are in a great percentage biased towards a specific special interest, we can address that through deciding to appoint or not appoint.
Right.
So those are two pretty significant interventions we can have. And of course, Betty and Bill and myself, I know that we'll work really hard to make sure that this is a very fair and democratic board. And I know that you will too. But you're at risk because you don't know who's gonna say yes and who's gonna say no. So we don't know how much work you have. And so in terms of timing, I know you're very motivated and quite capable, but I'd be in favor of you getting it done whenever you can. You know, if we can get it done by April, May, that would be great.
Would you guys be all right if I work with Denise to get it on the calendar as soon as we are comfortable we've got it in place and can get people there?
If Denise could do that, I don't know.
Yeah,
He's
I
gonna
mean,
get
sure, once he
inundated.
tells me he has
Okay.
all members I do think you should select a number of members that you would like.
Right.
So if you want to stick with, remove one citizen or remove something so that you have an odd number, not counting me.
Yeah,
Well, I'd hate to just go to 13, Denise.
it's not a good
Get
number.
very nervous.
Yeah, we should go the other way. We'll go to 16.
Add another, add 15.
15? What are we at right now,
We're
14?
at 15 counting Denise. If
Yeah,
we
so
have
it's-
16 counting Denise, that leaves us with 15 to vote.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'd rather go the other way, maybe another at large.
I think so. I agree.
Then-
Will that make it too hard to fill?
I don't think so.
Okay.
When we're on the Government Advisory Commission or Committee, our hardest judge was selecting a name,
Selecting what?
a name for our committee.
Before we get
We
carried,
sat
Yeah,
for
we spent
one
15
night.
months
Who should
doing
we
that.
be?
No, I'm just kidding.
so, Joe, so I seconded it, so that we don't have this happen again. I seconded, so we have to say all in favor, so we get this voted in this time. 'Cause
Yeah, we had a little discussion, right?
Yeah, we,
Yeah, we're all set
well,
with
what
discussion.
what we did in that discussion is we expanded the motion a little bit, but none of it is on friendly amendment because it came from Denise and Alex, so yes, as amended.
So as Alex fills it up, I mean, we could certainly, you can appoint as you go. I mean, it doesn't have to be all in one night. So if you want to, if the people he has identified are definites, you could have them come in and speak with
Yeah.
them and.
I totally agree
So you
with
could
that.
do it as it
And then just fill them
progresses.
in and have them
And if,
come in.
and if any of the board members have someone you want to recommend, you could send them to me and I could facilitate
Right.
to Alex, if you have
And
suggestions.
we'll take it in writing, either an email or a letter from you, or an email or a letter from the person that's interested, or any combination thereof. So we have something in writing on file that, someone presented themselves, wants to be on this board, and/or is being appointed, nominated, and then, it's more formal that way, so. Yeah, we'll get it done as quickly as you can get it done. We appreciate it.
Okay.
All in favor?
Oh, all in favor, aye.
All right?
Aye.
It's
Unanimous.
So it's done right now.
So, Alex, you can talk with Denise as we go forward, and
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that was unanimous. Great. Oh, our favorite subject, capital budget.
5-year capital plan.
So this was a follow-up. Joe had asked that I place the capital improvements recommendations, and then he has some thoughts that are attached to that. I will just tell you that on next Monday, we are meeting again Monday. The fire chief has asked to come before to continue discussion on the fire truck. So he will be here next Monday as well, just to continue the discussion.
Okay.
So can we discuss this now? We can't.
No, you can.
Yeah, we can. Do you know, does anybody know, when is the finance committee meeting, do you know?
They've started, I believe, huh?
Any
Or have
I
they
don't-
not? Have you heard from Bill Cook?
No.
No, I haven't heard from him.
But I don't have a finished, I'm still waiting for budgets from departments, so.
Sure.
People haven't submitted those.
So,
So I'm hoping I can give it to them and this board next week.
Okay. Well, I have a thought. Keep in mind that those of us on this board, we have three basic powers, if you will, for lack of a better word. We can call for votes, we can make motions, and we can actually vote. But we also have the ability to provide an opinion without compelling the board to act or do anything about that opinion. So I'm gonna deliver my opinion.
Do we have a document in it?
Yes. This is what we call the overlay, the 5-year. There you go. Great. Thanks for having this, Denise. This is helpful. So I looked several times at the capital budget, 5-year capital plan, which was adopted by the Capital Improvement Committee on January 13th of this year. And I like this plan. I like the way it flows and how it takes care of the highway department, cemetery, finance, police department, and also the council on aging, and also the fire department over, a 5-year plan, over a 5-year period. The only thing that I would advocate, that I will advocate for, and I'll make this clear now, and I'll probably make it clear at later meetings, is that the ladder truck line item for $850,000 should be reduced to $300,000 without also bracketing or requiring the chief to buy either new or used. I would like to give him a dollar figure based on what I've researched and some research of other quite capable people. I believe that $300,000 should be the maximum for the ladder truck purchase, whether it's new or used, no consequence. Now, I also will say, and I'll address this with the chief next week, I'm concerned about a potential liability. Potential liability is that the chief has mentioned that the men are in danger. You know, there are some risks if we don't get the ladder truck in place. So I'm thrilled to see, and I will certainly support the Capital Improvement Committee, that this purchase is made this year. But I also don't want to get into a long, drawn-out discussion or an argument with anybody in this town, and we don't make that purchase. The money will be available July 1st, and I'd like to see a new truck in this town no later than November 1st. With $300,000 to spend, we want to get it done. So that's my opinion.
I will back you up on the $300,000 purchase of a either new or used truck. I did my homework as well. As you know, I presented you guys with a presentation. I know for that kind of money, they can get a truck that will keep the men safe. It will do the job that the fire department needs, and it will be a truck that will last us for 25 years, as I previously stated. And we can have the discussion with the chief next week as well, as you stated. I don't think if this town of Groveland was using that truck 4 or 5 times a week, and it was going out and getting mileage and getting a lot of use, I would go for a new one. But I'm a firm believer in the amount of use the truck gets in Groveland, that we can get what we need for that kind of money. And as long as I've known, Groveland has never purchased a new truck. Not that it matters, but I think we've always gotten by making our men safe. And like I said, it could either be new or used. We'll give them the dollar amount like Joe presented.
Betty, what are your thoughts?
Well, I didn't know we were making recommendations tonight about what we were supporting. I had no idea that that's what, you know, I know Bill has a thought, Joe has a thought.
Yeah, that's just my thought right now.
My thought is, what do we need now? And safety. Safety for the community and safety for all the firefighters. You know, the chief talked about what we have now with people being in an open, it's not a cab, it's,
Open.
you're out in the elements, I mean,
Well,
so.
it's an open cab, they call it.
Yeah, and do I think new is necessarily the way to go? No. Do I think that there's used, or it's used as a demo truck, I guess, because it does have mileage on it? Aerial ladder truck, is that the best number there is, or is there another amount that gets us to where we need to be? Is there a compromise? I'm not ready to make a recommendation. I just, you know, I don't think we need bells and whistles and brand new. I think we need safe, and used is fine with me.
My only thought on this is, Betty, is the capital improvements has already made their recommendation, and I think
Refresh my memory what they said again.
they said,
The first sheet is their recommendation.
they've said no.
That's okay.
Well, if I can just make a clarification, so I don't believe the capital improvements has said new. I think a demo or used is still on the table. I think it's just they were allocating an amount. So I will tell you, I have spoken with the chief, again, he's coming next Monday. The demo, he did find a demo last October-ish, November, that he said would have been perfect for the department at $560,000. I don't know what price demos come in at, that's the price he found. So I think if you were to choose an amount of money, I think it has to be realistic with something that he can find that will suit the department. And just because you would say, you know, 800, 700, 600,000, whatever the number is, doesn't mean he has to spend that. You know, you could still say, we'd like your first course of action to be looking at a used vehicle or a demo model. You know, you can certainly put a restriction. I would be involved in the purchase anyways, so you know, just because you're granting that much money doesn't mean you have to spend that much money. So just keep that in mind with whatever you're deciding as well.
But we're not duty-bound to make a recommendation this evening.
No, I mean, because it
it's
is an
just-
ongoing, you would have to decide before, you know, town meeting, obviously,
Absolutely.
but.
I mean, usually I'm in that room a couple of weeks before.
And we want to hear from the finance committee
Right.
as well. That's why I had
Exactly.
asked when they're
Bill
gonna
Cook
meet.
hasn't, his committee hasn't weighed in.
Yeah.
And if you took the 850 that capital has provided for us, and then Bill and Joe have come up with a figure of about 300, and the difference is 550, so is,
Quite a bit of money.
yeah,
And you know something? I mean, I'm not saying we should make a decision tonight at all, but I definitely think we should engage in the conversation so we're prepared, and I don't think there's any reason not engaging in the conversation.
I think that's what we're doing too.
Right, no,
Yeah,
I agree,
exactly.
I
mean,
agree,
we've
and
done- we've
I
been- We
agree.
haven't been remiss, we've been
Right,
doing this right along.
Right, and I think that we shouldn't, you know, have a problem voicing our opinion, and then
No,
we all know where we feel when the chief and everyone else comes in, so.
when you sit at that town meeting table, you know, we'll ask selectmen's
No,
recommendation.
I know, I understand.
So that, you know,
I
whether,
understand.
We're on the hot seat.
we're on the hot seat, right, and so will finance committee make a recommendation.
And it's a lot of money, and it should be discussed.
Yeah,
It shouldn't be a
absolutely. That's a-
decision you
a
make
big
quickly.
No,
chunk
I
of
don't
You
money.
should be
I'm not
well
saying that.
informed. No, but I'm agreeing with you. You should
Right.
all be well informed.
Right.
You should hear from finance,
Right.
you should hear from, the chief. You know, maybe you have a public forum to get the public's input. You know,
Yeah, we
it's their money too, so,
Hmm.
you know, I think it's something that should be discussed in an ongoing manner until you are ready to make a
Right.
decision.
Well, that's a good point, because can we or can we not do that at town meeting?
You can, I think town meeting's probably late. I think you should really discuss it
I
with
too.
residents before town meeting.
Can,
We have one informational meeting on it.
It
Okay.
gets a little heated when you're bringing this up at town meeting, don't you think? We could really get bogged down
You
in
do,
the
and,
numbers.
you know, you could certainly,
prior to.
obviously with the chief, you could, you know, have a meeting right in the fire station. We have that beautiful new training room in the back. You know, they could see the truck. He could explain, he could have his men there and explain what they need. You could see it, you know, I'm sure he has a great projector, we could see pictures, whatever, and actually engage in a dialogue before you make a decision, so that you know that you have all the facts and everybody's weighed in.
And I think the residents would welcome an opportunity to come in and give a respectful opinion about,
But-
you know, to see what we have over there.
In-
Granted, we'd make the ultimate decision.
In all fairness, and I'm not saying this happens, but some parties will push what they want, no different than I'm gonna push what I want. So if you take people to the police station or the fire station, they're gonna push what, the people that are presenting are gonna present what they want. So I would like, if we're gonna involve the public, to get a good feeling for what they actually want. You know what I'm trying to say?
Well, that's true, but the same goes for town meeting. I mean, you know.
I wouldn't wanna do it in town
Someone
meeting.
could certainly stack town meeting
Oh,
to
right,
get their vote
exactly,
through.
they probably do. Yeah, I agree,
So
I agree.
I think
Right.
that's why to have a discussion before town
Before,
meeting
that's what I'm saying.
and invite, you know,
Even if they came here and just had a forum.
exactly, you could just certainly ask people to come here and weigh in if that's
Right,
something you
right,
wanted. But
right.
I think, you know, it may be helpful to physically see the truck, you know, to see
think so,
why
too.
they need a new one, you know, to actually speak to some of the firefighters, you know, maybe not just the chief, if you engage with the firefighters over there in a public forum, you know, it may,
Well,
you know,
the
because there's
point-
been some question that the firefighters aren't in agreement, so there's a lot of different people weighing in on this, so I just think it's helpful for the board to be as informed as possible.
Bill, from your research, and Joe, you found that we could purchase a ladder truck for 300,000?
I don't really wanna talk too much about, not that I'm
Yeah,
trying
but
to
not
be disrespectful to you.
specifics. Yeah.
I've been beaten up on this publicly, and
Yeah, but that's
I'm
what
only-
happens when you
I
sit
know,
up
I
here.
understand, but what I'm
Welcome
saying
to
is,
my world.
you can find, I said $300,000 because I presented you people $300,000 of a piece
Yeah.
of equipment that
Right.
is gonna do everything they need, you know what I'm saying? But I don't wanna be the one to saying I'm trying to pick a truck out, I'm not, I'm just trying to say,
But you.
I don't believe we need a new one, I believe we can do what we need to do with $300,000.
So you've done research.
I've done the research.
And, you know, I'm not saying that, you know, your brother-in-law is
Right.
selling fire trucks.
Right.
and
No,
we
no,
can
no,
get one
no,
for-
I understand.
You know, I'm
Right,
just,
right.
no.
If someone came to me-
If that would meet our needs.
Yeah, right. If someone came to me and made me believe that there's a reason we need to spend that kind of money for a new truck, and they could prove to me that we need a truck for a reason, I would be all over it, but I just think, listen, I'm in the business, I buy trucks, I use them, and I just think the town of Groveland is not ready for a new truck right now. I think they could no, I shouldn't say no,
A big purchase.
spend that kind of money.
Very
Yeah.
big
You know what I
purchase.
mean? I think we have to, it's a big purchase for the town of Groveland, I think we can save the people $550,000 or whatever it is, and we can, that dollar amount, I think would work, I do.
Okay, so if we are gonna have perhaps, a meeting at the fire station,
I don't wanna do it at the fire station, I don't.
okay,
I don't. I think town hall's town hall, and I think if you go to the fire station, it's gonna become more biased. Not that I'm saying it definitely would. I just think we gotta put it in more of a neutral place. This is where the selectmen meet, they come, talk about it, whatever. That's just my opinion. I mean, I don't know.
okay, I respect that, and I hear you. So if we have the meeting here or wherever, we are talking about putting on extra meetings and pretty darn soon. Because like I said, my
Maybe we
biggest concern is that it's been publicly disclosed that the men are in danger, and so I don't wanna be having this conversation and an argument for 18 months. I wanna get it done, and so we need to come together, and we need to do it relatively quickly, and July 1st will come, that money will be available, whatever is ultimately appropriated, and somewhere between then and November, let's get a truck in the door.
Right.
Let's
So the
really
chief's
set
coming
our
in,
sights on that, and we wanna work with the chief, and we don't wanna be in an argument for a long, long time over this.
I'm not looking for an argument, and I'm not, you're saying I am, but
No,
the
I'm
chief's
not,
no, I know. The chief's coming in Monday.
that's fine.
Okay, we're gonna talk to the chief, see what he's got to say again. I think at the end of the day, the selectmen need to make a decision sooner or later. I think the capital gave what their opinion is, the finance are gonna give their opinion. At the end of the day, like we just told Alex, the town tax people are gonna make the decision.
If-
That's it.
if
All we can do is inform them what we believe in, what the finance they believe in, what the capital believes in, and we go, like Betty said a minute ago, you go to town floor and it's all presented, and we don't have to argue about it and fight about it.
'Cause
We all, as a board, need to come up with what we wanna do. That's it.
Town meeting's not the place
No.
to dismantle the budget.
No.
Because
This
everybody's
is-
scrambling at that point. They're gonna have to cut something, and it's gonna get very emotional
You know-
for some people, whether we have to cut personnel or cut programs, I
You know,
don't wanna
But
have
the
that.
one thing, you guys know me, I'm very candid, and I just think that we need to come up with, let's not put it off to a rainy day. If you guys say to me, Bill, we're sticking with the new truck, I'll stick with the truck. I'm stuck on
But
the
you have a
300.
right to your opinion.
No, I know,
We
but I'm
all-
saying, I don't wanna make this thing go on, I'm not trying to make it go on, I wanna, listen, the capital already said what they said. We make a decision, or we talk
Do
about it
I-
after Monday again, we have another meeting next time after we meet with Chief Lane, and we come up with our decision.
Well, the first off night that we have, if we go with a Monday night, the first off night that we have is February 16th.
It's a holiday, just so you know.
Oh, it's
Oh, it is.
President's Day.
Okay, so that's a real off night. We're off.
Yep.
So
Can we meet a Tuesday again?
then we can meet on the 17th if that's agreeable to you, and I don't know, if
17th is the night of the public hearings that the planning board is holding.
the planning board.
You have copies in your packet. They're
Right
holding
here
marijuana
I didn't see
bylaw
that.
hearings.
Jim Freer,
All right.
Yes, so just so you know that, and I believe that's taking place here, because it is a public
How
hearing.
about a Thursday?
being advertised in the Tribune 2 days.
Yes,
So 16.
so you could
17,
meet the,
19th.
Charlie going home?
You know how when we meet
So
with
would
the,
that be the 19th then, the Thursday?
the 19th is Friday, the 18th would be the
18th.
Thursday.
if we meet with on Monday, if we meet with the chief
Mhm.
later on that evening, can we talk about it? Last thing of the evening, or you can't do that?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
So last thing of that evening, the last bit of business we do that evening after we meet with the chief, we discuss, the three of us discuss it.
Well, yeah, I just, I think it's a good idea also to allow the public to come in.
I mean, you can certainly, on Monday night, well, you can't do it
Go
for
ahead.
Monday, but you could ask people tonight, if they wanna come on Monday, you could do that now.
This coming Monday,
So
the ninth.
if it will be on the agenda, this guy have to post the agenda this
Right.
week, we can add that.
then we'll do
You
that.
can invite anyone to
When he
come.
does his presentation, and they can put their input in.
Yeah, we do have public comments, so
Right,
there you go.
right.
Okay, then that's what we have to do. Hopefully this is getting broadcasted out there and,
We will entertain
yeah,
comments from the
Public
general
to come in.
public.
residents of Groveland.
Good, okay.
Maybe we can get that on the message board.
I can, so then if you decide that night you need more, if there's too much, you can
Right.
certainly add another meeting, but
Okay,
the
Right.
public is welcome to come next Monday to discuss it.
Discuss, right, okay.
all right, good. So, Bill, you're gonna bring in your information again?
Yep,
Details? Okay.
I'll dig out my packet.
Because I have copies.
I don't
of-
wanna sit here and pick you know what I'm trying to say? I don't wanna pick a truck.
No, I think
you're
you can
not-
make a
no.
very good case, as
Right.
I can,
Right,
with the number that we came up with.
right.
Absolutely.
Because that's, we're not trying to micromanage.
No,
what
I don't wanna
they have.
micromanage, nope.
My primary goal is that they're safe, that they have what they need to fight a fire or rescue
Right.
someone, and that when they're doing that, they're safe. So,
I definitely think that they would, no doubt in my mind, they would be safe, and I'm sure we can make them safe.
because this was a staggering number right here.
And like Denise said, that's only a number. He may have come in and said, I'm buying a truck for $550 or $600. I mean, if we're talking 300 and he finds one for $550, I think we should go for $550 because the savings doesn't make sense. But
Is he turning something in towards this also?
I don't believe so.
I don't believe he would get anything. I think that was if he turned in the pumper. If he bought a new pumper now, he would get some resale on that. I don't
Only on
think
the
there was any
pumper.
resale on the
Okay.
ladder truck. Right, and I do think, again, if you're looking at like a $300,000 number, it may be, say, $550 is the max, because, if he finds something at $375,
Right,
you can't come
right.
back
No,
until the
right,
following
right,
year.
right.
So I do think there should be, if you're giving him a number, there
Right.
should be some room just in
Right,
case, so that
wiggle
it's,
room, yeah.
acceptable, but.
Absolutely. We're just trying to be fiscally responsible and safe. Okay, we all in agreement that the chief will be in next Monday, meet with us, we'll talk about it. We've invited the public to come in if they
Yeah,
have,
the public will come in and
ideas.
weigh in on what they think what should happen with it. And at the end of the night, we'll discuss our findings.
Okay, terrific.
Yep, thank you. Um, We have to vote for the chief to dispose of some old fire department turnout gear and an old television. Do I have a motion that we allow him to go forward with that?
I'll make a motion to allow him to go ahead and dispose of the surplus gear.
And the TV.
And I'll second to support that motion.
Any discussion on this vote? We're all set? All in favor?
Aye.
And, Bill, did you get some information on traffic lights?
Yep,
And,
what the deal was is, I just have the piece of paper here. Bob Calian knows all about the warranty of the bridge. He knows who's gonna operate it, who will be handling it, and basically, the way I understand it, is we're voting for the billing of it.
Correct. So when the time came to redo the bridge and put the lights in, the board at the time accepted that and accepted that once the project was complete, they would receive ownership of the lights themselves. So yes, it's just a formality that you have to physically accept the lights, and then we are then responsible for paying for them. The one caveat is, the company was not willing to release the schematics yet, but we do need to get those in case someone were to hit the streetlights, or something was to knock them down. We would then call in our vendor that we use to reset them. So I was waiting until after the board voted to actually tell them that we will accept the lights pending those schematics.
Did you say our electric light department will be doing that work?
No,
The light department is the one who will bill us.
they'll bill us, but Bob knows the company that does the service work on it. He
Yes.
knows who the company is.
Okay.
We use them for the flashing lights in
Right,
town
right,
already.
Right, I'm trying to think, it's out of
Okay.
Maine,
It's
but
like Electric Light is
Electric
actually the
Light,
name of the
yeah,
company.
yeah. And he knows all about it, so
Very good.
I'm confident that that's all taken care of, and so,
And we have
can I
minutes.
make a motion, or we don't have to? I'll make a motion to accept the, acceptance of the ownership of the Groveland Bridge lights, on this letter from Cambro, which will be accepting to the billing of it and the ownership of the lights, in which our, highway department will be taking care of the maintenance and anything else that needs to be taken care of,
Yeah, provided we receive the schematics.
provided we receive the schematic.
Do I have a second?
I'll second to support that motion.
Good. Any discussion at this time? Well, it's taken care of, I believe, right?
So when is the schematic coming?
I will tell them that we voted only, to receive the lights only when we get the schematics, so,
Okay, until that time.
yes.
I heard they were still using them.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Then we have minutes to approve from December 29th,
I've already read mine.
and I have, Joe, you put an addendum to these minutes, did you not? Is that when we had,
The statement that I read out loud, yes.
Okay.
That's included in there.
okay.
Oh, boy.
All right, Joe, I have a little statement I wanted to make,
Okay,
provide to go along with your statement. Did you want me to read it or just give it to you, Joe?
no, you can read it.
Okay.
It's fine.
Members of Board of Selectmen, Town of Groveland, from Chairman Gorski, and it's dated February, what is today's date?
Third.
Third, well, I wrote the fourth, but memo dated, read the memo that Joe Demore had given us at the end of December. I'm in receipt of your letter dated 12/30/14 and want to clarify any misconception regarding statements that I made. As I stated during the next meeting of the Board of Selectmen in early January, those statements are my opinion. If for some reason I neglected to state that at the December 29th meeting, it was an oversight. To be clear, the statements made continue to be my opinion, and so where I did, and no, where did I, in no way did I state that you were acting illegally. I would like the record to reflect that I take exception to the accusation that the process for appointing the fire chief was political, and believe that statements of this nature undermine the effectiveness of our board.
Okay,
Okay?
I don't have any comment on
You
that.
don't?
I appreciate it. I think that's probably a good addition to the,
Yeah,
to the
I
minutes.
just, didn't want to let that.
I think we can do that. We can add
Yep,
that to
so
the
you would have to actually ask for a vote if anyone would like to
Sure.
add that to the minutes.
Do I have a motion to add my statement to the December 29th?
Sure, I'll give you the
Minutes.
motion. Sure.
Would you?
Okay, let's discuss it. I think
And,
it's, I think it's very healthy for
Good discourse,
board members
right?
to have important discussions, even when they don't agree on certain things, so I have a certain perception, and you do as well, and I think it's good that you were able to put your thoughts in writing as well, and I don't have any rebuttal. I don't completely agree with everything you've said, but I don't have any rebuttal. My respect for you and for this board overrides any concerns that I might have
Very
in
good.
terms of the nitty-gritty details that we're talking about,
Very
so
good.
thank you for that.
You're welcome, and I had to, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
It's
you.
unanimous, and Bill, you made the motion?
I
Bill
made the
did,
motion.
yeah. And can you
So
see
that's
when
an
it
extra
attached?
vote. We gotta,
Sure, so then now you need to accept the minutes as amended, if you'd like to accept the minutes
Do I
as
have a
amended.
motion to accept the amended minutes from
Yes,
December 29th?
I'll make a motion to accept the
With-
amended minutes.
all right, Bill, the motion, I'll second to support that motion.
Amended minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
All right?
Aye.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay, minutes from the 29th.
So I will just attach this to the approved
Could you
minutes.
make me a copy of that also?
So the only minutes we're approving tonight is the 29th as amended.
We have
with-
other minutes too.
No, that's the only one you're approving tonight. The other ones are on as correspondence because they have not come
We
before the
still have
board
to
yet.
study them, right,
Okay.
Yeah.
right. I think we go through two meeting
Yeah.
cycles at least. yeah.
Yes.
So they're all written, January 5th is done, January 12th. I also did the executive session minutes from January 5th. So those all can be approved by Monday, right?
Correct, they're all on the agenda for Monday
So
evening.
they're all in there, folks, if you guys want to read them through and make sure
Yep.
that, you know,
And just know, obviously, the executive session minutes, you approve them, but they're not released to the public until the items discussed in the executive session have been finalized. So they stay, you may approve them, but they're not released to the public until
okay.
we close the
I-
items.
I do consider the writing of the minutes a board function, so please, look at them and come back with edits and
Absolutely.
rebuttals, written statements, anything, because I don't, it's
I
not,
know that
it's not
it's
just my job.
a
it's-
burden for you to do these too. We have to address that.
Well,
I have it down.
it's a labor of love.
Yeah.
to look at them
That's
really closely, because once we approve them, they're, you
Right.
know,
Well, I've
kind of
learned in the
official.
past that if you find an error, you can go back and
right.
address it, so.
I know Denise goes through them with a fine tooth
Yeah.
comb, has picked a few things that,
Now, correspondence, we've already,
yeah, we've already looked at those.
we've done all of that. Greg has moved on to another community, John has
So you
moved
should
on.
just accept the resignations,
Okay,
you know, just formally, because you do appoint them, so you should just accept that they.
okay. So, I make,
By vote?
Together?
Yeah, I would do it by vote, just to make it official.
okay. Officer Greg Perkowski from the Groveland Police Department has moved on to another department. It was effective February 1st. He resigned from our police department. John Riapo resigned from our highway department January 11th. We have a resignation from Heidi Snyder as a trustee for the library. Letter to the ZBA from Conservation Commission regarding 441 Main.
Yeah.
Letter to Brad Legals from Water Department. Email and attachments from Dan McDonald regarding fire truck purchase. I'm sure Dan will be at our meeting, maybe next Monday, correct?
Sure.
He's very interested in this purchase. Draft of a revised public resident comment policy. You took care of that, Joe?
Yep.
Okay.
We promised each other that we're gonna, you guys will kick those around a little
Yeah,
bit for a couple of
exactly.
weeks. We're gonna actually talk about them on Monday, and then we'll vote maybe 2 weeks later.
And
Same thing with
memberships
the
of
next one,
boards
yeah.
and commissions, yeah, we'll be looking at over.
Yeah. And then draft policy on attendance.
Policies on attendance of Board of Selectmen members at meetings. We have executive session minutes to read and approve. Minutes from January 5th, minutes from the 12th. We'll take,
Yeah, I would just ask you to take a good
Right.
look, especially at the executive session minutes, you know, make sure that I captured what,
everything.
the essence of what we spoke of, and where the consensus was, and any
Right.
votes taken.
Denise, we're at your time.
You wanna make a vote on that first?
Do we
Oh, yeah,
want
we
us to
need to,
vote on all the
I would
correspondence?
just accept the resignations.
Right.
You don't necessarily need to do Heidi Snyder, because you didn't appoint her, she was elected, but you should just accept the two
Okay.
employees.
Make a motion that
Go ahead, Bill.
we accept
I'll make a
the
motion that we
resignation.
accept the resignations of the positions that Betty just listed.
Officer Pekarsky from
Officer
the police
Pekarsky,
department.
John Ryapel, library trustee, oh, we're not gonna do her.
I think that's it,
That's
right?
That's it, just
That's
those
it.
two.
Okay, do I have a
So-
second, Joe?
Yeah, second on that, to support.
Okay. If there's any discussion on any of those?
Just on the library trustee, so I guess we're probably gonna wait for the library trustees to come forward. with
Yes, so the library trustees are meeting this week. Their meeting was postponed due to the snow.
Yeah.
The policy follows the same as it has with the Water Commission and the Light Commission. They have until February 15th to submit a name to me to add to your agenda. So right now, it's on your agenda for February 23rd. It would be a joint appointment of this board and the library trustees to fill her vacancy through until the next election, at which
Okay.
point someone would be elected in to fill the remainder of her term.
Great. Do you know if they have any nominations?
I don't know, they were still working on it,
Okay.
so I think they will discuss it, it's one of their items to discuss this
Okay,
Thursday.
Great, thank you.
Denise,
Yes.
would that be your time right now?
Yes, so just a few things I wanted
Sorry
to.
we're late, Denise.
Just a few things I wanted to talk about. So the fiscal 2016 budget, I am still working on it. We have had some issues come up that I'm waiting on final numbers. I attended a GIC, Group Insurance Commission meeting on Friday. Due to several factors, one of them being the fact that the state has historically underfunded their portion of the state's insurance, the municipalities have to make up for that. And the utilization of two of the most popular plans, the Tufts PPO and the Harvard PPO. They are looking at increases between 9 and 11% on health insurance next year. This goes against what the GIC was planning. They were actually planning a 0. That's what they were intending to give us, but now it's looking at between 9 and 11%. They are still working on those final numbers. They are beating up the health insurance plans to come back with lower rates, but that's something we do need to take into consideration. In addition, we just added a new veteran to our veteran services at approximately $1,200 a month. So as it is, we're in fiscal 15, our budget's already short by $6,000. This will add an additional $6,000 shortfall in this year, and we'll add approximately, $14,000 that we'll have to budget next year in addition to what we're currently budgeting. Our liability insurance was underfunded, so we are currently running a deficit in that account. I'm not sure why that was, but we were underfunded in that. And we've had to add to that line the title insurance on the Angelini and the Madeline property, which is roughly $20,000 for both of those combined. Those were things we did not take into consideration. And the cemetery budget has been underfunded for the last many years. It seems to be how they've done things in the past. The way their budget has been set up is town meeting has appropriated approximately $4,500, but they spend between $15,000 and $16,000 a year. They have been taking in the fees of people purchasing markers and stones and things of that nature, and then just respending them. It's actually illegal. You can't do that. They have to go through the proper appropriation. The commissioners were completely unaware of it when I met with them last week. They did not know that that was not allowed, and they said it's been like that for 20-something years. So we actually need to increase their appropriation by at least $10,000 so they are fully funded with what they need at town meeting. So all of these things have come in and are now impacting the creation of the budget. In addition, there are still several departments. I have not received anything from the Board of Health, and I was told they don't plan to submit a budget. So, I know, I told them they can. I put out a budget package. It's not optional. So I was told they plan to just submit a letter that they want to level fund everything and not comply with the other items we've asked. I will send out a final notice to, I did get some other departments that did not comply with the mission statement and goals, and I will follow up and ask that they all do comply with that. But, to not have an entire department's budget is kind of hindering a little bit. So hopefully, once I get all of those items worked out, I will have a preliminary budget to you next week. Some positions, some employees have put in budget requests, including salary increases, in addition to the 2% that we discussed that we would give across the board. So there are some items that you will need to discuss, and if you'd like to meet with those employees, I will make recommendations to you, what I feel is necessary. But then it would be up to this group and the Finance Committee, obviously, to move forward.
On those recommendations regarding specific employees, that be done publicly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be done as part of the budget process, yes. I mean, I can certainly meet with them one-on-one and find out. The two of the employees that requested it, they didn't submit mission statement or goals, so I don't know why they're actually looking for an increase, because they didn't give me any documentation. So I will follow up with both of those.
Denise,
Yes.
Liability and title insurance.
Mhm.
Were we not aware that we were going to have to provide that, or should that have been taken into consideration for this selling?
It should have been taken into consideration with the purchase of the properties. I think in fairness, I don't think anyone realized the title examination was going to be so in-depth that we would need such insurance to cover us. We have not received the bill on the Angelini property, which, by the way, we did close on today, so we are now the proud owner of all parcels. The Mattingly property cost us about $7,600 for title insurance, and Angelini's property was much more in-depth, so I'm expecting it to be $10,000, $11,000 for that.
And what's the 20,000?
That would be the combination of both. The title insurance is on both of
About
those
8 and
properties.
6? Well, that's,
So going forward, we should keep an eye on that if we purchase.
Correct. I mean, again, if you're looking to purchase something, a major piece of property that has, questionable title, or that is something to take into consideration that you would build into the price, or the funding for it, I should say.
You getting any indication what type of support we're gonna get from the state, or is it too early? Cherry sheets?
Yeah, we haven't had any preliminary yet. I did attend the MMA annual meeting 2 Fridays ago where Governor Baker spoke at. He did assure all cities and towns, he's not looking to cut state aid. He knows there is a huge budget deficit, but he is not coming after the municipalities. That is not his goal. He did restore, obviously, Chapter 90 in his first day in office. So we are hopeful that he is committed to that. He did put together a municipal coalition so that the municipalities always have access to the governor's office. Our lieutenant governor is actually the chair of that committee. So it's good news. It is good news that he's willing to work with the committees, the municipalities. I think he recognizes, being a former selectman, the hardships that we face, especially when state aid is cut, or, 9C cuts go in mid-year and you have to make up for that. So I do think he will do his best to not take anything away. And once casinos go forward, we will start hopefully seeing much more state aid coming in.
Well, I hope so.
Well, some of the hardships we created ourselves. I don't understand the cemetery budget. If they were getting $4,500 a year when they needed 15 or 16,
They were functioning as their own
I don't get it.
unofficial revolving fund. They
Right.
considered it donations. They put everything into a donation account and then spent out of that donation account. Again,
Operating like a business, basically.
correct, but it violates appropriation laws. You can't do
Unless
that.
we turn them into an enterprise fund.
And I did check with our auditors. We went through the law. There is nothing that would actually allow them to function that way. They technically don't even qualify as a revolving fund because it's not a program. So we have to budget for their expenses, the expenses, and then any money they receive is general fund. So the general fund has been short, has missed out on all the money because they've just been respending it instead of it coming to us and appropriating what they actually need.
When I was a commissioner up there, they would, you're right, they would spend every dime they could get and make sure it was spent by the end of the year because that's the way it was set up.
And that's what they told me.
That's the way
It's
been
no
set up,
fault of
And
it's.
they would never, ever, ever go into perpetual care money, or they wouldn't go into any of their, general budget money. They'd always spend what the town gave them, and who were told to do it that way, if I was involved in it.
Right, and that's what they said. They said as far,
That's
I
the way they
mean,
wanted to do
I
it.
met, Bob said probably as far back as 30 years it's been
Right,
happening this
right.
way. And no one stopped it, but, now that I've seen their budget and I see what they're spent, I just can't allow that to happen.
So you're, what you're suggesting, the quickest fix is to just simply appropriate the money that they need to operate with, and then whatever they collect goes into our general fund to kind of help us
That's correct.
recoup that
And
at the town level.
The other thing that, with the cemetery is nothing to do with what we're talking about, we're getting a little sidelined. Again, there's no management up there, and that's gotta be addressed sooner than later, because there's a part-timer that goes up there and works, and there's a full-timer that's up there and that works, and how do you justify and know what they're doing?
That's up to us
That's
to do
hard.
something about it,
Right, I
now
mean,
that we're aware.
we do have an issue, that with the current budget, we are short in the cemetery department because they did hire part-time people. It was not budgeted for.
Right.
They did have overtime. That was not budgeted for. And I've told the commissioners they need to find that money. They need to take it out of their accounts,
Right.
not perpetual care, although they can technically justify it. But they need to come up with that. It's not something that town meeting authorized. The Board of Selectmen didn't authorize hiring staff or overtime. So they do need to come up, and they were completely on board. They understood that. They understood that they needed to make up for that money.
Who manages that part of it? They would manage that part of it.
The cemetery
So,
commissioners,
okay.
yes. And I have met with them.
Right.
We have, I'm supporting them.
Right.
I've encouraged them to find some software that we can actually, cemetery software to scan in the records and have my staff data enter the deeds as they come in instead of, going forward. We need to deal with all of the past records, but I think we need to, get the cemetery more modernized, and that way we can sort of track. Right now, we don't know when someone's buying a lot and when they're paying for it, or,
It's
so
supposed to.
we need to keep moving in the right direction with them, and I think we are.
I know when I was up there that, a lot of the older roads, we were turning them into cremation sites. Because there was the land starting to get harder and harder to, and we started looming them and seeding them to make more creation sites to sell more.
And they are continuing. They have identified many streets up there that they are going to turn into lots.
Right.
And they can actually expand their availability up
Right,
there dramatically by doing that, and still have the main access roads.
So Denise, any way we can help them, as you say, your people can input information here. We could probably call on some people as volunteers, and maybe we, there are schools that, there are landscaping schools, maybe we can call upon somebody to do part-time work there, or maybe somebody at Northern Essex that has an internship they're doing, maybe they could come here to do some computer work
I
or
know
whatever.
I know when I was there that there's a lot of deeds in that building that need to be sorted through.
Well, I think that's the first step. They need to organize, they need to figure out what they have. I know they have duplicates of things, so they need to, I think the commissioners need to take ownership, and obviously it's a touchy subject this week discussing the cemetery commissioners, but they need to take ownership. They need to take ownership of the cemetery, the reporting, the records, and I'll help them. Like, we can hire a part-time person if they want to, that will sit in here, sort the deeds, scan them, but we need to get them on board with that's the right direction. And I think they are, but it's, there's a lot.
Something's been done
There's a
for
lot
years
that
and
needs.
years and years one way, I guess you just assume that works out.
Right,
And it
right.
hasn't been.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Whatever we can do to help, we find a way to get some help to make that run smoothly. Do you feel that way?
Absolutely agree with you.
And then just lastly on the budget, so there have been some requests for additional staffing in some departments. So that will actually impact the budget as well. The highway department is looking for additional staff. The cemetery is looking for part-time staff. The police department is looking to add an additional full-time officer. We currently have reserves covering the overnight shift. We think it would be better to actually have a full-time officer covering an overnight shift in addition to reserves. So those things will impact, obviously, the budget as well. So there are some new initiatives we're looking to implement.
Are you having, do you need our help to enforce the compliance that has to happen with all departments reporting for the budget?
I'm going to send out a friendly reminder to those that I haven't received,
Should be from
the
us.
narrative. Again, I am hoping that the Board of Health will submit a budget, but the narrative to me is just as important, looking at what the, revenues and goals of the department. So I am going to send out a reminder and hope, there's only a handful that I haven't received, but.
Well, let us know if you need our help with that, because that greatly concerns me. This is your first budget. It's my first budget, Bill's first budget. And I know Betty's on board with, working with the board, with the rest of us to make this a smooth transition and a smooth operation. And we have some pretty significant issues, structural problems, being underfunded by the state and
We're going over budget and all
so
the things.
having departments not report is an irritation.
And that's the-
Unacceptable.
And this is.
It's unacceptable.
It's not very, you're not part of our team then, you're not playing with us, and we're asking for your help, so
It's-
I wanna enforce that, as, if you need help getting that enforced, let us know.
I will, thank you.
It's good to know that, that we heard from Denise, because we're going into a lot of areas where we're gonna be overspending this year, and if we're gonna go into purchases, we really gotta be cautious of what we're doing, so it's nice to hear that, it would be nice to hear that a budget, so we know what we're doing.
See, this is we're blindsided by an extra $20,000 on the title and liability insurance, which we really weren't expecting. That somebody overspent their budget by $15,000, we weren't expecting to hear that. We have to be creative at this point in how we're going to move forward. If you want to finish your director's time, I'd like to bring up a couple of things.
Sure, I mean, the
during
other things,
selectmen's time.
sure, the other things are, The one that I really want to touch on is the first one. Currently, there is no policy in place for new hires. There is no drug screen, there's no alcohol screen, there's no pre-employment physical. That should be a condition of appointment. You know, the way it works is if we were to hire someone that had a back problem and they hurt themselves tomorrow, we own them in that issue. So I think it's important, again, for every new hire, we can certainly work with, I think Anna Jakes has an occupational center, that, you know, every appointment would be conditional upon the results of that pre-employment drug screen and physical.
I agree.
And it just, again, it just wasn't done in the past, there wasn't funding, or there wasn't a place nearby. But to me, those are things you make a priority.
So let me stop you right there. So
Sure.
how do we do that? Do we create a policy, or how do we get a procedure like that?
So I will bring a policy before this
Okay.
board to actually accept, and then any new hire going forward.
That's fine.
Obviously, Corey would be for those applicable positions, not everyone is subject to Corey, but definitely
What ones would be acceptable to Corey's?
normally it's those that deal with the vulnerable population, so elderly or children.
So like not a regular highway?
So not town hall employees or
Town hall,
not.
no, wow, yeah.
So really for us, it's library,
Oh, wow.
council on
There's kids and
aging.
elderly, okay.
Correct. You know, if we had people going into homes, so sometimes the light department or the water department, if they're in and out of homes, then they would be subject to it, but most employees are not.
Okay.
Are there any collective bargaining units that would be impacted by this policy?
No, and they shouldn't be, because you're the appointing authority, so they wouldn't be impacted by that.
Okay, great.
And then the other two are just, the code of conduct policy is actually recommended by our liability insurance. They feel it's important. They've actually given me a sample. It's very standard. You know, just that we'll act professional and uphold the laws, and it's only about a paragraph, but it's something that they suggest we adopt. And then the last one is the development of a social networking policy. More and more municipalities are adopting these types of policies. Obviously, with the world of Facebook and Twitter, employees tend to step away from their 9-to-5 job and go online and post things. It may be negative about their employer, it may be things that they're taking out of context or in their own opinion. But basically, just because you're off the clock doesn't mean you're not a municipal employee. So things that you post on social media should still be framed with it's an opinion, or, you know, if they're making disparaging comments or, you know, posting inappropriate things, they should still be held accountable to the standards of municipal employees. So I do have several policies that other communities have adopted with regards to social networking.
When do you plan on bringing those forward, those policies?
The drug and alcohol one and the pre-employment physical very soon, and same thing with the code of conduct.
Okay,
Social networking, I just want to make sure we have the right policy before that goes forward.
good. Good.
And that's all I have for you.
That's it?
That's it.
Well, now that I'm trying to get over the shock of the budget, we're-
Yeah, I know, it prevents us from doing things, or it's an impediment, the things we know we need to do, but now we have the shortfall. And
It
where
is.
do we go to make it up?
And I will tell you, I mean, I actually didn't tell you all of the shortfall items, because there are several other ones.
I don't know if we're ready for them.
But I am keeping, the good news is I am keeping a list so that I can see.
Check it twice.
Right now, we have $24,000 in change that Pentucket turned back. They renegotiated one of their agreements, so we received $24,000 extra, or less in our assessment. So I do have that money that we will allocate at a special town meeting to cover some of these costs.
Good.
They obviously won't take care of all of it.
The thing is like, how do I say this and be politically right? You go out and.
impossible.
It doesn't work anymore.
You go and you make these purchases, land purchases, and all these purchases, you cannot find and get to that last dollar amount. You go to the town,
Takes
people
so
say this
long.
piece of land's gonna cost this much, and then when it's all said and done, it costs this much. You can't narrow in to that last dollar bill, and it's hard to do, and people don't realize that when they go to town floor and they vote on buying this for X amount of dollars, and then it costs them down the road, you can't get it, you can't get that number narrowed right in, it's unfortunate, you know?
It is, it is.
And then you
I mean,
come up with a
it's-
shortfall, so,
It's the unforeseen.
Right.
just like I was saying about not to be on top of the ladder truck, but, you know, it's just like, you gotta try and not overspend, that's all I guess where I'm trying to go with this.
Right.
I don't
And-
think any of us want to do that.
No.
Right,
I
well,
really
and
don't.
actually, it's illegal to overspend a
It is,
municipal
to spend your budget, yeah,
Someone
exactly.
can actually go to jail for overspending a municipal budget.
Right.
However, like, one of the items that we've overspent, it's contractual, and for whatever reason, it just was not included in the budget. It was in the budget request, but when the budget went forward, it was removed. And those are things that we had to pay out, so it's things like that,
Right,
and the
you don't know
liability
about.
insurance. You know, we had some issues, you know, we added a new truck that added another $900 in insurance because we've added, you know, so it's things that you don't expect the
Right,
cost.
that's what
It's not just buying the bottle of water. It's
Correct,
got everything else that goes
I mean,
with
obviously,
it.
the big ones are the veterans that now, you know, we need to find an additional $12,000 this year, 6,000 that we're already gonna be short.
Right.
Um,
It's the
2016.
unforeseens that are killing us, the
Correct,
unforeseens.
2016 you're talking about.
No, so the current veterans,
When you
for
say
fiscal
current, this
15,
budget right now
yes, for
that
fiscal
ends
15, the
June
way we're
30th.
trending, we'll be $6,000 short. And now we've just added, as of February, a new veteran at $1,200 a month, which was not
Which
budgeted
is gonna
for.
accrue between now and June 30th.
Correct, so that's another 6,000. So it's 12,000 that I should need to find to cover veterans for this fiscal year.
Yeah.
Then we'll need to increase it by those amounts for next fiscal year.
That'd have to be
Right.
in the budget.
Well, I'm glad you caught these things for us, so that's good.
So it's a work in progress, and hopefully I'll have some of these items narrowed down and then by the end of this week to actually give you a budget.
Are we in Selectmen's time now? Are we still? in-
Yes,
okay.
I am done, you're in Selectmen's time.
You wanna start, Betty, or do you?
Betty's got
Yeah,
some time.
I'd
I got some
like
time.
to talk about some help. I almost hate to say it. If you don't have any money, I feel like that other party in government that spends without the money. I really think that we need a part-time person here in Town Hall, a clerical person, to help with numerous things that are presenting themselves. And, you know, I know Nancy's winding down, so I'd like to know how you both feel about that.
That was one of the items I was gonna suggest. I don't know if we needed to approach it as an executive session item or not, but I wanna definitely have, a decision made within the next 30 days as to how we're gonna reorganize the support for the Board of Selectmen.
Because the minutes, you know, Joe, it's not fair for Joe to sit here and do the minutes. I don't know how many weeks that's been,
Well, that's
but
just
it's
a-
been several.
I appreciate that. That's just a tiny, tiny thing.
I'll piggyback.
That position, you know, has been an interface and a liaison with legal counsel on serious matters. That position has also been, you know, engaging with the public and routing complaints and concerns. The position is pretty significant, so, and it was maintained by a very significant, very capable person. So now we have a void at some point in our future, and we need to decide how we're gonna fill that void.
Yes, because I would need to know in preparing a budget, because currently
Sure.
we have that budget, that position funded at 0 in next fiscal year. So if you're looking to do something, full-time, part-time, whatever, we do need to come to some decision on that.
And Bill, I know you've got some really strong feelings about this, so share them with us.
No, my strong feeling is to piggyback on what you and Betty are talking about. We had an all-boards meeting a few weeks ago, which a lot of the board members came in and group members came in on a Saturday. It was a really productive meeting, and everything went very well. The outcome of that meeting was there was 2 problems within the meeting that needed to be addressed, and one of them I got out of it was that the selectmen basically need to have a secretary because we're putting a lot of responsibility other places we should and what have you, and I think the morale in the town hall is down because of it. They're not getting the answers they wanted, and I think we gotta get this done sooner than later, however we do it.
So how shall we do it? Should we put something on for next Monday? What are your thoughts?
Denise, to get somebody in place on part-time, I think a part-time basis, that's just my opinion, maybe my colleagues feel differently, but somebody that needs to be here so you're not constantly interrupted. And I know that was the case in other offices. People sometimes think they can just walk in here with their briefcase full of problems and think that, you know, here I am, help me solve this. And that's not how it goes. People need to know I'll have time for you, but can I get back to you next week, or can you come in tomorrow, or whatever? I think you need like a traffic cop here.
Well,
with,
most-
with lights, you know, no, you're on the phone, you should be getting all correspondence from council, so it's in one central location. All these, because we've had a lot of work lately, a lot of land purchases and a lot of discussions and a lot of money that, you know, we've committed ourselves to. I think we need somebody in that role, and again, I've heard that things break down in this town hall, or they break down in other buildings here, and somehow you're asked to go over and take a peek at a burner that's not functioning. We need maybe a part-time facilities person here. You know, I don't think that you need to be out shoveling snow. I know other people have done it. I never thought it was a good idea. So I would like to see us hire a couple of part-time people that can help town hall transition smoothly. And I also had one other thing, I know Bill
Can we
mentioned.
just talk about that, let me just finish talking when you're talking, before I forget. To go back to
Bill,
what.
make a note like I do.
I tried it. I'm minus 20 hours of sleep.
You're tired.
To go back to what you said about Denise was, I definitely agree, and I think most big businesses, if you look at a business, how a business operates, no one goes directly to the president, you know what I'm trying to say? So they have like a person they would talk to ahead of time, or they'd come in and the person could take notes, I'll get back to you. You know what I mean, you need to get a hold of the selectmen, okay, well, I'll take the notes down, whatever. So they come and they answer to someone, they talk to someone. That person ultimately would do other secretarial work. They may do something for the vice president or whatever, or another person in the company. No different than the town of Groveland. If we had a person in that position that could do something, whatever project maybe Denise needed or someone else. I think we could build that seat into being a productive seat if we did it the right way. And I think it's well needed, and I don't think that a finance director should be trying to act like you know, snow shoveler, or a building maintenance person, or whatever is happening, you know what I'm trying to say? So I think it's our job to do what we need to do, to let her be the
We can't,
finance director.
we can't do it tonight, because this is.
I'm not saying that,
time.
yeah.
This is just conversation.
So, but we should put it on the agenda next Monday, so that we can give Denise clear direction as to how many hours, and at least a sketch as to what this position should be.
Okay, so I'm in agreement with what you said, Joe, 100%. We can put it on for next Monday, but I also think that we owe the respect to the person that's in the position now. I think we need to have the respect to talk to that person that's in the position. Have we formally, or has the person formally?
Well, what
Well,
we need.
if I can just jump in,
Go ahead.
so, just, the budget is, as of fiscal 16, a 0 for that position. So right now, all we're talking about is July 1 and forward.
Right.
So you need to figure out what we're gonna do. If you wanna discuss current, that's fine, but the discussion would be is whether or not we're going to keep a position, add a position, because right now in the budget, I have a 0
Okay,
for that salary.
okay.
So we just need to figure
We're
out.
talking about,
So, right, so you can
Okay.
certainly talk about current and present day, but,
Okay.
you know, we need to figure out what your long-term plans will be, because as of July 1, we have nothing, we have nobody in that position at all.
We have to address the problem in both ways. We have to address the current issue, and I agree with you that any person that we are discussing in terms of their position and their role and their duties, past or present and potentially future, we have to offer them by invitation and also by option whether they would like to engage with us in an open session or an executive session. And I'd like it to be either one of those next Monday. The first thing. The second thing is a little bit easier, and that's just strategically what we'd like to do. That, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, because we know what the position is already, and we can basically come up with a template off of that for July 1st and beyond, and say, Denise, this is kind of what we want the job to look like, how many hours, the kind of credentials the person should have, and how much money we'd like to spend, and we can. And then I'm sure Betty will be the first one to say, or I will, or Bill will, and Denise, can you help us with filling that seat?
A description of
So-
what we need.
Can you be our designee to kind of lead that?
So I'm confused to the point where we're talking about right now a new position. Is that what we're
You
talking
have to
about?
do both.
Well, I
though.
think, as far as what Betty threw out, I think she threw out two positions. She threw out filling the secretary to the board, as of July 1 and forward, in some, she recommended part-time capacity. And then she mentioned adding a facilities custodian type
Right,
person.
okay,
Yes.
okay, perfect, so I'm in agreement with
You know,
that.
if we could swing that financially, it would really would, it would. be
Not that I'm trying to
I will
throw-
tell you, I mean, we have had the same cleaning company for many, many years, and they do a wonderful job, but we
Yeah.
do pay them $20,000 a year. So you could actually hire someone at
Part-time
18 hours a
retired
week
guy.
for $20 an hour if you wanted, and still save money.
Right.
So it is feasible.
So-
Well, not only that, but, you know, we need to get out of the habit of calling the highway department to do all kinds of things.
Correct, and Betty's right. I mean, last week I was traipsing through the snow with the generator guy to test the generators and the boilers and I don't know anything about pressure
Right,
machines. and,
right, no, you need to have someone.
You know, I was shoveling yesterday morning, which is fine, but
And
people
they-
need to get in the building, so.
They were taking people from the cemetery to do out lighting.
Yeah.
We need it. and
Yeah, we
it's
do.
gonna
I
be-
mean, and it should be for all buildings. The library, you know, even after these meetings, there are times when, you know, tables need to be moved, and, you know, it shouldn't be left up to the
Getting
Council on
ready for-
Aging to move things. or-
Getting ready for the voting.
Correct, exactly. So to have
I
someone,
said a guy, but I know
But
somebody
Do
could
it
do.
I'm not trying to throw a wrench in this, but I'm confused. I know you said as of July, there's no money in the budget, so
We have a new budget coming.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But right now, am I correct, we have a secretary right now?
correct, so, right.
So what I'm trying to address is, can we go ahead and say, we're looking for a new secretary and we have one now? I'm confused.
You can,
Okay, all right,
but I think you need to address that.
right, that's
So
what I'm trying to get.
if
So-
if you're talking about this current fiscal year, then that's something you all need to decide. I was addressing July 1 and forward, because in the
Right.
budget next year, we do not have any money set aside for that position.
All right.
So if this is something you want to work on, we just need to make sure the budget
Let
is.
me go back one step.
We
So,
can't vote on during selectmen's time, we shouldn't anyways.
No,
but-
we're just,
But I think we're in agreement that if it's gonna
What
be
our
next
needs
Monday,
are.
the next Monday, that discussion is two levels. Level number one, currently, the position, and number two, July 1st and on, the strategic discussion. So we need to discuss what we're gonna do for the remainder of this fiscal year. And it has to be clear, and it has to be also hopefully engaging with the current employee. And again, by invitation, either by executive session or by open meeting, her choice. Has to be very clear.
so, Joe, so we would be discussing that either in the executive session or in public with that person and inviting him next Monday.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay. Now,
I think personally, we owe the respect.
oh, absolutely. That-
100% respect.
That's the whole
That-
point,
that's-
that's exactly. And that respect is shown also, and of course, it's required by
So
law.
if the person wants executive, that's fine.
Required by law, I think you can give
Right,
that
okay.
person a choice. You wanna go, you know, would you like to have a conversation with us and help us through this transition by, executive session or open session? It's just a very respectful thing to do, and it's legally required anyways.
So, do we put it on for next
But
Monday?
I wanna have that conversation now, I don't wanna wait any further. If it's
So we
possible.
put on for next Monday night's
If
agenda?
it's possible, sure, absolutely.
And would you be writing the letter or talking, all that good stuff, or no?
That's
Betty?
something you want me to do.
Well, no, I don't, no.
I had one other thing.
We have to do it by letter, or can we just ask you to?
I think
Oh, you
people
also
have
do-
to be invited in to talk, and they have it just, if they want to have it in open or public session, whatever they might like.
Okay.
There was one other thing that, one other issue I thought we should discuss and invite the person in to talk with us, and that would be their decision if they wanted to go into executive session or
Who's
have
this?
it in open session. Well, we had a all boards meeting a few weeks ago, and, you know, it was really, everybody was here to discuss how we could operate and run things more efficiently and share information with each other. So if we could ask, Pat, I don't know, Pat Skeena didn't come in that day. I don't know if he called anybody, but I'd like to ask him, there are a few issues I'd like to get some answers to, if we could do that at his convenience. And I don't know if my colleagues have anything to add to that.
No, that's another thought that I was gonna suggest tonight. I'd like to have an executive session or an open session by his choice, exclusively with the building inspector, to discuss a variety of topics, including appointment, performance, and specifically concerns regarding at least one project in town.
I'm all in favor with it.
Okay, and I don't want to delay that. I don't know if we.
We don't have to vote on that, Denise, right? It's just
We
an
definitely would like to
invitation.
put that on for February 23rd if we're successful in putting on the other item that Betty suggested for this coming Monday. So we'll do that. I would like to do that no later than February 23rd.
If, Denise, if it's an invitation, the person does not have to come, am I correct?
So what you would do is you would actually invite the member, or, invite the member to attend, give them the option to appear in either open session or executive session. If they choose not to attend, you can still have the discussion in public,
Okay, okay, all right,
but you give them the option to
Okay.
attend.
okay. So we
So,
have two people,
how do
two
we do
parties
that?
involved right now, am I correct? We have two parties involved,
Yeah.
okay,
Mhm.
fine. As long as we-
Mhm.
That's fine, that's, I
So-
think, the right thing to do.
Can the chair call on behalf of the board, or do we have to do it in writing?
It should be in writing,
Okay.
because it is a law, so we do need to
Right.
cite the open meeting law and their rights.
Well, we've got to get it done by Thursday for next Monday, because we've got 48 hours to post.
Yes.
I'm not going to be available tonight to do anything, any writing. Are you able to put something together for us?
I can put something together.
Thank you.
What happened to just being a finance director?
No, well,
No, I know, I'm
I have a
only
personal
teasing.
issue. I've got to go pick up my parents at the airport at
I
midnight.
gotta go see 'em
and
parking
I'm
lots.
not going to be around, so, yeah.
Anyway,
Hope they get in here.
And they don't have computers, so I'll be in a different world.
So you'd like one on the 9th and one on the 23rd?
Yes,
Um,
thank you.
Are we kind of clear on those three things right now?
Yes.
Okay.
What was the 3rd?
I think it's the secretary / maintenance person.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Also,
I haven't had sleep and I'm catching on.
I know you're tired, and Mike's,
No,
we're
no, I
gonna
think
talk with Mike
she's more
too.
tired than I am. No, go ahead,
There's a problem that's out there, and I want to be proactive, and I don't know if it's my place to even bring it up, but I will talk to Bill and Joe and Denise about it. There's an epidemic out there in communities. People think it's just cities, but it's not just cities. It's, a lot of people are becoming addicted to opiates. A lot of young people are dying because they move on to other things. And I know a lot of police departments and fire departments are carrying something called Narcan to reverse the effects if you find someone in that condition. And I don't know whether we should have a forum on that, or we should talk with our police department about, in our fire department and public health. Anita's still is she still our public health
She
nurse?
is.
But I think that's a discussion I'd like to generate, and I don't want to be borrowing trouble, but I want to be proactive and not reactive.
So I can tell you on that, since you and I have had this discussion, I did reach out to the chief and deputy of the police department just this morning to see if they were available to come to the February 23rd meeting, number one, to discuss the potential firing range on Center Street, and two, to discuss this topic as sort of a public service announcement. What is the town doing? What can we do? Just to kind of start a dialogue, make sure people are aware, maybe what the signs are, how to spot it if it's your children. I do think it's a good topic. It's a good public outreach topic. So I had not heard back from them if they are available, but I did ask them to attend on that 23rd meeting.
And maybe that's something we could do in the public safety building? What do you think?
I would say if you want to do that, it probably should be an off night.
Be an off night, right?
So we
Because
could
it's such a
pick,
big subject.
Yep.
And maybe nobody will come in to talk about it, and maybe a lot of people will come.
yeah, so I can certainly set something up as, a public forum, we could have it recorded, with, I don't know if Anita's available, with the fire department and the police department to talk about it.
Because she's,
Well, I agree with you, Betty. I think it's a very timely subject. I've talked to the chief about, concerns, and I've learned, some things from doing my own research. I mean, we have two drug corridors, Route 95 and 495. Now, there's trafficking going on in this area, unfortunately. So not, it's the whole country, the whole
yeah, the
North
whole
America.
area.
So we're not immune in our little bedroom community here by any stretch. And between those two corridors is this, little town called Groveland that's nestled in between there, that's got a little connection point, or two of them. One is 113 and 97. So the possibility of incidences occurring here with non-residents is high, and the possibility of something happening to one of our residents and our children is unfortunately there as well. We've had actual cases. It's also timely because it's expensive to implement Narcan. You have to have people trained, you have to bring the product in, and that's gonna be a budgetary issue as well.
And I will tell you, not to interrupt you, but many police departments that have implemented it does involve collective bargaining, and some unions have required stipends to carry it.
Yeah.
So there is another impact
Yeah,
with
it's a
that.
But
big,
isn't,
it's a big financial impact.
Isn't Groveland uses Trinity, and I could be wrong when I say this, but I thought Groveland, when they use the Trinity, they would be coming in and handling that part of it?
So Trinity is still our ambulance
Right,
service,
and they'd
but,
be-
but still, every community has an ambulance service, either in-house or,
But-
and the officers are still the first responders. They're usually the
Oh,
first
they're
ones
the
on
ones that have
scene.
to
Yeah, remember that, we have a policy, our police officers are first responders for medical issues or.
They'd have to be trained to use it, what to look for and all that good stuff.
Correct.
Okay,
And I will say, it is very effective
Yeah.
when used properly.
Right.
But it does come with a budgetary
It's a
impact.
budget issue, but
Denise, does DPH have any funding for communities for that?
I don't know. I don't know, and if they do, I don't know if we would qualify. I'm assuming that if they have funding, it's going to cities, Haverhill, Lawrence, Lowell.
Because time is of the essence when they arrive on a scene and they feel somebody has overdosed
Yeah.
because of.
I agree, and I
Those-
think, or, if we have the police in at the 23rd's meeting, maybe they can put together, I don't know what they're doing, but maybe if they're doing something at schools, or, have an assembly with the high school students. I mean, they're obviously the vulnerable population that might get involved with this.
And parents need to be.
Right, or if there's something they can send home with parents. I mean, I think it's a good start to a dialogue to get them in, figure out what the best community outreach is, whether it's a forum or a letter or a call or something, a public service announcement on cable,
didn't-
something that we can do.
I didn't know if this was the place to bring it up, but every time I read a story, it's like something has to be
I'm
done.
glad you brought it
Yeah,
up.
no, I think it's fine.
You're the liaison, the go-between, whatever you wanna call it. Actually, the French word for liaison is go-between. So, just a thought, maybe Jeff, Lieutenant Gillen.
Deputy.
I'm sorry, Deputy Gillen would be a quick study in this.
Yeah, well,
With his resources.
right, and he may be, and that's why I did send the email out to
Anyway,
both
for
the
the
chief
chief,
and
but-
deputy to see, and I don't even know, they may have officers that are trained or specialized in this.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
So I did ask them, if they have any staff that might be specializing that they want to bring forward. Again, just to start a dialogue and just to start making people aware that it is something that the town is, concerned about and thinking about.
I don't know if we can talk about this, but we're in the selectmen's time, and Joe just mentioned liaison. So, to try and, basically talk and to try and clarify between the selectmen and the police, I was never under the, or did I know the protocol? I do now. So, I wasn't trying to start drama, but I didn't know the protocol, and I do now have the contact numbers, and I guess I'm gonna be talking to you directly, maybe, But,
Well, and just on that, whether it's the police department or any department, I think, it gets you all out of being in that position.
Right.
And that's why, I'm not necessarily a liaison, but I am a go-between, so that if
Right.
you need something from departments or employees, don't hesitate to come to me, I can go to them.
Right.
Because it's, it does put you in a sensitive situation if you're dealing one-on-one consistently with the same employee, then it looks at biases appear and,
Right. But my point that I was trying to make is I wasn't trying to talk to a personnel, I was trying to say an emergency situation. You know what I'm trying to say? I could understand if I was trying to go and talk to someone about their job or job title, then I'm out of control. But if it was an emergency situation, which it was, I thought it was, but I know the protocol now, and I will stick to the protocol. I'm new, I'm green, I guess I made an error, but,
Well, it's okay, we're all green.
and
think-
I still don't 100% agree to it, because if I had to call the police station in an emergency, if my kid was hurt or something, I have to call 911 instead, but whatever.
Well, the chair of this board has the discretion, not the authority, but the discretion to protect this board. And I agree with Denise, any one of us that interacts or engages with anyone that we have appointment power over, eventually is gonna put somebody in a compromising position. Worst-case scenario leads to a lawsuit. Best-case scenario, it has the appearances of something wrong.
But again, if we were talking to them directly about a subject between me and that person, it would. But if it was an emergency thing about a town issue,
Yeah, but
how would that?
I'll be honest, I do think you did the right, I didn't see anything wrong with what you had done. But obviously there is a protocol in place.
Right, and I didn't know it.
Right, and now the board's aware of it, so that should be, obviously in an emergency, you should call 911 and speak to whomever answers the phone and relay your information. But yes, I mean, going forward, it's, you do have point of contact, which should be your first call. Or like I said, and you all should be receiving communications from me as I get it from, specifically the police department. I forwarded all the weather communication. And if it is an emergency, I will either call or text you, because that's usually the quickest way. But, so, we will facilitate information that way you all get the same information, you all get it at the same time. It's not one-on-one communication, it's whatever, they're relaying is coming to the
And
board.
that all makes sense.
That's good.
And I think it would probably end up working well.
Good, very good.
Are we still in selectmen time? Are we-
I think Mike's gonna meet
Oh,
with us.
I have just a couple things I want to finish up
Sure,
selectmen's
go
time.
ahead.
Number one, I was up to the high school today, everyone's heard about the water leak up there and what have you. I'd like to just say that they've done a heck of a job over there, the water leak is repaired, to the point where they're in the cleanup phase of it. I believe, don't quote me, but I think school's closed tomorrow, but, water is back on for the most part, and, I think after tomorrow, they'll be straightened out with that.
What-
And they worked really, really
It
hard.
wasn't the same one that
Same
broke today.
pipe.
The
Same
same one
pipe.
from 2 years ago.
Yep, same pipe, but it was out in 113, and they ended up cutting that line, capping it, and they tied into Groveland now.
Did it create damage to the building like
Nope, it
last
was all
time?
outside the building. So they're,
I'm sorry, they tied into our water supply?
That's what I said
So
when I
we're
heard
providing
it.
their water now?
That's what I said.
Welcome to Groveland.
Tom was there,
Okay.
so he knows
Well,
about it.
that's something you have to look into, because I know that was
Yeah.
an issue a
Tom
few
was there,
years ago,
so I
but
did see him there. I mean, I wasn't there
I'm fine
doing
with
the
that
pipe
if we
fix,
put a meter on it.
but I mean, that was the quickest fix, instead of
Okay.
going into 113, but I mean, they worked hard, and they worked tirelessly, and it's all taken care of. And the last thing I'd like to say is, a lot of hard work went into keeping the roads, the last two storms open, and really, we owe all the highway department and the road crews that Bob hires, they did a heck of a job, and our schools were opened with a 2-hour delay, and really, they did a great job.
it did.
And
Our
I
roads are
mean,
much
they
better
really-
than any others.
And a lot of schools haven't had school 3 and 4 days, we were right back online within a couple hours, and, I think it's good.
Yeah, and just to say, I mean, I drive through many towns coming here, and it was remarkable last week, when I drove into town on Wednesday afternoon, when we opened at noontime, to see how clean and clear the roads were. Last week, there was nothing but praise. I mean, people actually came into the building to commend the highway department on the roads being clean. This week, I think it's just frustration of people because there's so much snow
Oh, yeah.
now, and it's where are you
Right.
gonna put it all?
Right.
But the crews have been out around the clock, and they have worked tirelessly, and they have done a fantastic job.
Great.
And if the snow's not removed from your streets, it will be soon.
I don't know.
Just have to be patient, you know.
I'm not saying anything.
Well,
I mean, they're working on it, that's all I can say,
Yeah,
is I
well-
think Bob needs to speak on that, not me. I got myself in trouble once already with the police department, but.
Yeah, they are working on, I mean, you know, we have had calls about, you know, some smaller roads or side streets. They
Exactly.
will get there, they will get there. But obviously, public safety is number one, and making sure the main roads are clear. And I can tell you, I mean, I'm sure Bill can attest, people have not been sleeping. I mean, you guys have been working around the clock, so they are doing their best, and I do think the
I know
roads are
today,
remarkable.
today the goal was to get the intersections cleaned up, so cars pull out, they can see.
See around
And then
it.
the next part of it would probably be, and I'm not speaking for Bob, but I think would be getting the snow out of the areas where it has to be taken away. But I mean, that's his department, and that's normally what they do, I don't know.
Yes, the intersection down here is causing some problems. People couldn't take a right, the snow mounds are too high for people to see around, so they were making that a focus today.
very good. Anything
Okay, I've
else
got a
on?
couple of items.
Go ahead, Joe.
We've had, okay, we're in agreement. We have to have serious discussions, either by executive session or open session, to reorganize the secretarial position for the remainder of this fiscal year, plus strategic plan for beyond. We're in agreement on that.
Yes.
We're in agreement that we need to have a discussion with the building inspector. I would like to also suggest, and this is Denise, for you to decide at some point, that we have a second executive session to discuss with you your role as well. You know, that's open-ended. With me, everything is sooner rather than later. With Bill, you know, when you ask the question, how fast do you want something, he says immediate, so, but somewhere in between.
Okay.
Let us know when you're ready to have that second discussion, so we can talk to you a little bit about that.
Okay.
I also wanted to report, just briefly, when the fire station, central station received the old equipment, there was a mistake made by our contractor, Hewlett Packard, that we're under contract with the warranty, in rewiring our equipment here, and that's what caused the lack of audio at the meeting 2 weeks ago. And I greatly regret that. I do get updates on a regular basis, because I'm on the cable and TV board, so I have the opportunity to find out a little bit quick what goes on, and Chris LaCoria appraised me of that, so I just wanted the public to know that. And lastly, I wanted to compliment you, Betty. I've been on the Board of Selectmen now for, I don't know, 18 months or so, and I know that a very sensitive area for you is engaging with the police department for reasons that you stated publicly. And, you know, tonight was a special night to honor a young man that's going to be a new police officer for our town, and we also heard from both the chief and the deputy, and now they've invited, they're going to be invited back here, and I commend you for that, because I know that is sometimes creates some discomfort, and there's limitations on how you can engage because of the case that occurred and that is over. So I thank you for your leadership. Appreciate that very much.
Thank you for saying that.
I think Betty, I think Betty loves the town of Groveland, and I think she would do what it takes to love the town. I don't think you'd let anything get in the way of it, so I think that's what you needed to do, and you did it, and I think it's good what you did.
This young man that came before us tonight, you know, he's the future of the community. His family was so proud of him. It's his day, it's his night. You know, I'm glad I was here to see him become a full-time officer, and I'm glad to see his mom and his wife with him and his little boys. I think that was great. That meant a lot to me, and despite what happens, we all stand tall and move forward.
But something like that also makes it worthwhile.
Exactly,
So.
exactly.
Mike's yawning, he wants to go home.
Poor Mike, poor Mike, he's retired now.
Oh.
He can sleep late.
That's right.
All right, so if nothing else, you can roll call into an executive session, and we will move
Okay.
into the other room.
Okay. I'm looking for,
All right, so I
My,
make a motion to adjourn. the regular
No,
meeting?
you can't adjourn yet, you
Oh,
have to
you-
roll.
We have to come
oh,
back
that's right, we're
into
doing
regular
a roll call
session.
yes on Demore?
Done, yes.
We're going into executive session. What chapter is that, Denise, that we,
I don't know the actual,
Can you-
it's identified, this section. It's just, one
oh,
of the
okay,
open meeting. law.
okay, okay. To consider perhaps a real estate purchase in the future. And I think if we were in an open session, it might be detrimental to any negotiation position. So, Joe, you've voted
Yes, I'll-
in the affirmative?
I'll attend, yeah.
I have.
And Gorski, yes. And then we will come out of executive session and adjourn our regular meeting.
Correct, but there won't be any further business, so
Yeah, you don't have to
camera
stay,
won't-
Charlie, we're all set. Okay. Thank you for being here.